Chapter 755. The magnificent mountains, rivers, and forests were like ancient mountains that had existed for thousands of years. According to Qi Hanyu's order, Nangong Bai, Lung Lingyan, Shanzhen, and Chu Hen, the four strongest disciples of Mount Kuan-Lu, were the first to explore the way. At this moment, Chu Hen had arrived at an area about 200 miles away. In front of him, there were many steep cliffs that pierced through the clouds. A faint mist floated between the heavens and the earth. The surrounding environment was beautiful and the spiritual energy was abundant. One had to admit that compared to the outside world, the ancient desolate heaven domain was like a paradise for cultivation. The abundance of spiritual energy here far surpassed that of the victorious East Province. Even if one stayed here and did nothing, just breathing and absorbing spiritual energy from the heavens and the earth to cultivate, one's cultivation speed would be several times faster than the outside world. It was no wonder that everyone fought so hard to enter the ancient desolate heaven domain. Of course, Chu Hen also understood that this was only the tip of the iceberg of the ancient desolate heaven domain's charm. It even contained the power to make the Xian body reach the saint body level. Swoosh! Suddenly, Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he caught a hint of an obscure aura. There's someone. Chu Hen couldn't help but slow down his footstep. Then, he moved his body and landed on the side of a mountain peak. Looking ahead, what appeared in front of him was a vast and deep canyon. In the middle of the pool, there was a mound of soil. On the mound of soil, there was a lot of vegetation and there were a few colorful flowers and plants. The clear water was blue, and the flowers and plants were beautiful. The mountains on both sides of the deep pool were so steep that it looked as if they were carved by a god with a giant axe. At first glance, this place was beautiful and harmonious. However, when Chu Hen saw the beautiful scene in front of him, he frowned slightly. His intuition told him that this was not a good place. It was very simple. In this clear pond water, there wasn't even a single underwater creature to be seen. Not only that, there wasn't even a trace of an ordinary wild beast within a radius of nearly 50 kilometers, let alone some large demonic beast. Then, a few swift and fierce figures flew out from the side of another mountain peak. There were a total of 4 people. From their clothes, it could be seen that they were not disciples of the sect. Most of them were Horizon Ronin or bounty hunters. The human aura that Chu Hen had sensed earlier came from them. The cultivation of these people is not weak, they have all reached the level of the profound world realm. Chu Hen thought to himself. He immediately restrained his aura and hid in the dark to observe. The 4 of them did not stop at all and flew straight towards the pool in front of them. Hee, I didn't expect to find so many resurrection grass right after entering this place. My luck is really not bad. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with triangular eyes. His cold smile revealed a hint of complacency. A stalk of resurrection grass is worth 100 million high-grade origin crystal stones in the market. There are at least a few thousand stalks of resurrection grass here. With these, we won't have to worry for the rest of our lives, hee. The other man, who was short but exuded a cold aura, smiled knowingly. Resurrection grass? Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and looked over. Among the strange flowers and plants growing on the slope in the pool, there was a dark red flower that was the most eye-catching. The leaves of this flower were very strange. They were like the palm of a human. When the 5 fingers were spread out, it was like a human hand waving. It was wonderful and a little strange. Chu Hen had some understanding of this so-called resurrection grass. It was a kind of treasure that had a very healing effect. Due to its high price, one stalk was worth close to 100 million. Only those from the big sects and families could afford it. At this time, the 4 of them had already reached the area above the deep pool of the canyon. The man with triangular eyes who spoke first shouted coldly, "This area is so quiet. There is most likely some evil beast hiding here. Second brother and I will go and pick the resurrection grass. Third brother, fourth brother, you 2 act according to the situation and cover us at any time. Understood?" The two men behind him replied in unison. Those who could obtain the heaven and earth mystic yellow token and enter the ancient desolate heaven domain with their own abilities were not ordinary people. The four of them were very cautious. The triangular-eyed man and the short man looked at each other. Then, their figures flashed towards the small hill in the middle of the pool. The other two men also took out their weapons and iron chains, ready to cover the two of them at any time. "Move out!" Looking at the resurrection grass on the ground, the four of them looked like they were looking at a pile of gold. It was worth hundreds of billions of high-grade crystal stones. To anyone, it was a huge fortune. However, just as the two of them were about to pick the first stalk of resurrection grass, the calm surface of the water suddenly rippled. Then, with a deafening sound, the water rose to a height of 100 meters. A terrifyingly powerful aura surged out like a flood and immediately enveloped the area. Oh no! The faces of the four people changed dramatically. Before the others could react, more than a dozen incomparably huge tentacles directly flew out like flood dragons from the sea and instantly entangled the triangular-eyed man and the gloomy man within. What? The four of them were shocked again. The huge tentacles were like the hands of the sea god from the deep sea. Each tentacle was more than 100 meters long, and the dark red tentacles were covered with large suction cups. The two of them were immediately unable to move, as if they were entangled by giant pythons. "Third brother, fourth brother, hurry up and cut these things!" the two of them shouted in panic. In the next second, the two of them who were in charge of covering and rescuing had already raised the weapons in their hands, and the true origin aura in their bodies burst out without reservation. "Evil creature, don't be arrogant!" The burly third brother held a 2-meter-long golden blade in his hand. Endless true origin gathered on the blade, and it emitted a dazzling light. He raised the blade with both hands, and with a force that could split a mountain, he slashed at the tentacle that was wrapped around the man with triangular eyes. An all-out attack from an expert in the profound world realm was enough to split a mountain. This slash was full of energy. Boom! The extremely lethal slash was ruthlessly slashed down, and the raging power was vented on the tentacle. A thunderous sound exploded in the sky, and a chaotic wave of air shattered like a rain of light. Something that shocked everyone happened. The opponent's slash seemed to have hit a copper pillar, and it could not even break the skin and flesh of the tentacle. What? The third brother's eyes were wide open, and his face was pale. How was this possible? Whoosh! Without waiting for him to make any reaction, the other tentacle directly swung over, and with a rapid wind-breaking momentum, it dragged a series of afterimages in the air. Bang! With an explosive sound, the other party was smashed by the tentacle, and directly burst into a cloud of blood mist. Third brother! The remaining people were shocked and angry, but more than that, they were filled with endless fear. "I'm sorry, big brother, second brother." The fourth brother was so scared that he did not dare to stay here any longer. He turned around and fled, completely occupied by fear. However, just as he turned around, in the next second, a flying tentacle instantly wrapped around him. The other party was like a rabbit being attacked by a giant python, unable to move and was firmly suppressed. "Ah! Help, no!" Crash! Amidst the blood-curdling screams filled with fear, the three men were dragged into the deep pool by the terrifying tentacles. Water splashed everywhere, and the scarlet blood was gradually diluted by the blue ripples. In the blink of an eye, the pool became quiet again. What a terrifying water monster! Chu-Hen, who was hiding in the dark, witnessed the scene that happened in front of him, and his back faintly felt a little cold. In just a blink of an eye, 4 experts in the profound world realm died here. They did not even get to see the full appearance of the underwater demon beast, but with that huge tentacle, he could imagine that the other party was definitely a terrifying behemoth. He could not afford to provoke it. Without too much hesitation, Chu-Hen shook his head, then his figure moved, and he turned around to return in the direction from which he came, ready to report back. A moment later, Chu Hen returned to the temporary residence of the people in Mount Kunliu. Almost at the same time, Nangong Ju, Lung Lingyan, and Shan Zhen also arrived. "You're all back. Are you all right? Did you encounter any danger?" Hua Haozi and Mu Feng asked. Chu Hen smiled and shook his head. After that, the four of them looked at Qi Hanyu and Wen Liang, the two hall masters, and replied in turn. 100 miles to the north is a desolate desert. I walked 100 miles in the desert, but I did not see the end. There are many underground demon beasts in the desert. Shan Zhen was the first to speak. Qi Hanyu nodded slightly, then looked at Lung Lingyan. The latter raised her beautiful eyes, and her red lips opened slightly, saying, "There are many rocky valleys in the east, and many cave demon beasts live there." Simple and clear. Then, Chu Hen paused for a moment, then said, "There is a large area of jungle and mountains to the south, and there is a deep pool 200 miles away. There are demon beasts hiding in the pool, and they are very strong. 4 profound world realm experts were killed in an instant." Oh! As soon as he said that, everyone was slightly shocked. "What kind of demon beast?" Qi Hanyu asked. Chu Hen shook his head. "I did not see its full appearance, I only saw a lot of huge tentacles." Tentacles? Qi Hanyu and Wen Liang looked at each other. The latter did not think much of it. It was just a demon beast, there was nothing to be surprised about. Before Chu Hen could finish his sentence, Wen Liang turned to look at Nangong Qian. The latter glanced at Chu Hen from the corner of his eyes, then raised his head and answered, "I found an ancient city 300 miles to the west." Ancient city? Everyone's eyes lit up. Chapter 756. On the ancient road of the desolate city, the roots of the banyan tree run deep. A vast and flat ancient city appeared before the eyes of the group from Mount Kunliu. As if it had been weathered by the wind and rain for countless years, the ancient city exuded an unusually desolate aura. Many places had been eroded by the passage of time. The towering city walls stood before them, and it was difficult to make out the words on the walls. An ancient and desolate aura surged from the wide city gates, giving off a feeling that no one had been here for a long time. Previously, after Chu Hen, Nangong Ju, and the other two had investigated the surroundings, the two hall masters and a few elders had discussed and decided to head in the direction of the ancient city that Nangong Ju had discovered. "Hall master, should we send a few disciples in to investigate first?" a middle-aged elder asked in a deep voice. "There's no need." Wen Liang raised his hand slightly. "Just go in directly." As one of the hall masters of Mount Kunliu, Wen Liang had absolute confidence and strength. Even if there were any dangers in the ancient city, he would be able to bear it. However, the flying immortal hall master, Qi Hanyu, said indifferently, "It's better to send a few disciples in to investigate first. We've already wasted a lot of time. Even though this is the ancient desolate heaven domain, we don't have to be so restrained. With the two of us here, we can head in without worry." Wen Liang's tone was rather unyielding. This was also related to the martial art that he cultivated, the great demon slaughter technique. Every corner of his body exuded a powerful and domineering aura. Qi Hanyu could not be bothered to argue with him, so she did not insist any further. Soon after, under the lead of the two hall masters, the group from Mount Kunliu directly stepped through the gates of the ancient city and majestically made their way into the city. Even though the city was ancient, the buildings were still relatively well maintained. Many tall buildings stood on both sides of the wide streets, and the weeds that covered the ground seemed to be telling of the desolation of this place. Under the desolation of the jade palaces, the past glory and prosperity were depicted. The ancient city was still abnormally quiet. There was not even the slightest rustling of grass in the wind. Everyone could only hear the sound of the group's footsteps. Under such a cautious atmosphere, everyone could not help but feel a little stifled. "It's really strange." Rat frowned slightly, and his pair of small eyes were filled with confusion. "What?" Chu Hen asked in a low voice. In such an empty and desolate place, I can't even see a mouse. The people around him were slightly stunned. Mu Feng glanced sideways and said casually, "They're all starving to death." What a joke. Hausi rolled his eyes at him with slight dissatisfaction. In his opinion, all rodents had extremely tenacious vitality. Some poisonous insects, snakes, ants and the like could all become food for rodents. In a wasteland like this, there could be no humans, but there would definitely be rodents. Maybe there are no rats in the ancient desolate heaven region, Hua Shui said. The few of them were startled once again. Chu Hen replied in a somewhat funny manner, "That makes sense. Senior Brother Mouse, you should let Xiao Jin patrol around." "Okay." Hausi nodded and raised his right hand. Then, a little fellow the size of a child's fist scurried out of his sleeve and lay on his palm. "What a cute, golden rodent!" Hua Shui's eyes lit up, and she subconsciously reached out to touch its furry little head. "Is this a pet of yours? Lend it to me to play with for 2 days." Hausi smiled and said to the golden rodent, "Xiao Jin, go and see if there are any of your kind nearby." The mouse let out a soft "gg" sound like a mosquito. Then, it leaped and turned into a ray of light, quickly disappearing at a corner of the street. The group continued forward. Not long after, the group from Mount Kunliu arrived at the center of the wasteland. In front of them was an ancient central plaza. There were artificial mountains, platforms, gardens, pavilions, and other buildings on the plaza. What was different from the outside world was that these buildings were particularly imposing. Coupled with the magnificent palaces nearby, it made this place stand out even more. "What's that?" Suddenly, a young disciple subconsciously blurted out. Everyone was slightly shocked and looked in the direction he was pointing. They saw a strange ball on top of an artificial mountain. Upon closer inspection, the ball was not particularly regular. It looked like a flower bud that had yet to bloom. A faint white halo flowed around it like a thin layer of gauze. Looking at the flower bud ball that was about 1/2 meter in diameter, everyone's faces revealed a hint of confusion. Clearly, none of them knew what it was. "What's that thing?" "There seems to be a rather strong energy fluctuation." The ancient desolate heaven region is indeed a blessed land. There are so many rare treasures growing here. Could it be the heavenly spirit flower? An uncertain voice came from the crowd. "Oh? Heavenly spirit flower?" Hearing these 3 words, the hearts of the people from Mount Kunliu lit up. The heavenly spirit flower was an extremely rare heaven and earth spirit flower. It was nurtured by the essence of the earth and gradually grew. When it bloomed, it could reach a height of hundreds of meters. It had a very powerful effect of gathering spiritual energy. If it was transplanted to Mount Kunliu, the density of the heaven and earth spirit chi in the entire sect would increase greatly. It would be many times stronger than before. Looking at its appearance, it does look a little like the heavenly spirit flower. We're rich. There are no more than 5 sects in the victorious East State that possess the heavenly spirit flower. We really have to thank Senior Nangong for discovering this ancient city. Senior Nangong has done a great job. The crowd discussed softly and turned their gazes towards the 2 palace masters. Nangong Ho's face also faintly revealed a slightly proud smile. When Liang raised his hand slightly and an elder behind him understood. Then, he ordered a young disciple to go forward and inspect it. The disciple's body moved and he leaped like a cheetah, landing steadily on the artificial mountain that was tens of meters tall. He carefully approached the ball and observed it at a close distance. Then, he slowly extended his palm that was wrapped in true origin energy and gently placed it on the flower bud. Buzz, a faint ripple appeared in the air, and a few wisps of pure energy flowed into the disciple's body. The young disciple's eyes brightened. What pure spiritual energy! Palace Master, the energy is very pure. It's the heavenly spirit flower without a doubt. When this was said, the crowd was overjoyed. The young disciple also very gently and carefully took out the heavenly spirit flower along with the rock underneath it. He held the heavenly spirit flower in his palm, as if he had obtained a precious treasure, and flew to the ground. Squeak, squeak. At this moment, the gold-eating rat that Housie had sent out, Little Gold, had also returned. It lightly leaped onto Housie's palm, and let out a low and urgent squeak. When he heard Little Gold's explanation, Housie's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly glared at the young disciple who was walking over with the heavenly spirit flower and shouted loudly, "Throw that thing away! Throw it away!" What? The thunderous sound exploded in everyone's ears like a clap of thunder. Even the expressions of the two palace masters changed abruptly. In the next second, the heavenly spirit flower suddenly surged with a violent energy fluctuation that was similar to the magma in the belly of a volcano. The violent fluctuation was comparable to the undercurrents in the deep sea. The powerful aura caused the exquisite flower bud to rapidly expand, and in an instant, it became a few meters wide. The young disciple turned pale with fright and hurriedly threw the heavenly spirit flower in his hand away. But at the same time, the flower bud directly blossomed with countless dazzling scarlet rays of light. Bang! With a deafening explosion, the violently twisting and surging flower bud suddenly burst open, and thousands of light beams and flowing shadows wantonly flew about. Ah! Chapter 757. Bang! The extremely violent shockwave caused the entire central square of the desolate city to tremble. The powerful energy riot was like a volcano that had erupted in an instant. Along with the endless scarlet radiance, countless streaks of light flew out from the exploding flower bud. The young Mount Kunlun disciple was caught off guard. Without any preparation, he was directly crushed by the dense streaks of light. In just a blink of an eye, a bloody incident occurred in Mount Kunlun. "Retreat!" the master of the flying celestial palace, Chi Hanyu, shouted coldly. The Mount Kunlun disciples retreated one after another and took a defensive stance. Buzz, buzz! Rumble! The noise was earth-shattering, and it directly enveloped everyone on Mount Kunlun. When everyone focused their attention and saw what was happening, they could not help but clench their fists tightly. Their faces were instantly filled with a thick gloominess and chilling anger. The streaks of light that killed the young disciple were actually reddish-brown poisonous insects. These poisonous insects were not very big and looked a little like ladybugs. However, the people of Mount Kunlun knew very well that these were definitely not ordinary ladybugs. They were the blood-hunting poison ladybugs with extremely strong offensive power. There was only one place in the Eastern Victory State that had this kind of poisonous insect. This place was the sworn enemy of Mount Kunlun, the blood-refining sect Buzz Buzz. The blood-hunting poison ladybugs that filled the sky were like a sandstorm that was swept up by a gale. They surrounded the people of Mount Kunlun in the central square. A thick aura of danger rushed in from all directions like a torrent. However, an even more terrifying thing happened again. Along with a rustling sound, the ground around the square rapidly bulged up one by one. Following that, densely packed poisonous insects once again drilled out from the ground. Buzz, buzz! Not only that, but the sky outside the city was also filled with a majestic swarm of poisonous bees. The black and dense army of poisonous insects was like a raging tsunami that soared into the sky. With the momentum of returning, they pounced on the people of Mount Kunlun from all directions. Boom! At the same time, a gale blew between heaven and earth. A powerful aura that was as strong as a mountain once again pressed down in this direction. Ha 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 ha, Wen Liang Chi Hanyu, long time no see. How have you been? The surging true inner force converged into a violent gale that surged forward. Then, a black-clothed figure with an astonishing aura appeared in the void. Wen Liang and Chi Hanyu's pupils faintly shrank when they saw the person who had arrived. The former's eyes turned cold as he clenched his hand. A domineering red aura rose from his body. Wen Liang's throat bobbed as he coldly spat out two words. Ho Lai. Ho Lai was one of the most powerful people in the blood-refining hall. When they saw who it was, the faces of the people from Mount Kunliu turned cold. Sure enough, they were from the blood-refining hall. Enemies were truly bound to meet on a narrow road. He had only arrived in the ancient desolate heaven domain for less than a day, and he had already met an enemy. This was truly unexpected. Hey! The middle-aged man named Ho Lai smiled proudly. I am very honored to inform everyone that today is the first day that Mount Kunlia has arrived, and the entire army is going to be annihilated here. Humph. When Liang sneered and shouted with slight disdain, "You!" and "Me," as soon as he finished speaking, a thunderstorm suddenly appeared in the other side of the sky, exploding in everyone's ears. The airwaves were monstrous, and the space was trembling. Another figure whose aura was not weaker than Ho Lai's flew over again. This person had a head of dark blue hair, and his skin was pale without any color of blood. His lips were also dark blue, as if they were smeared with poison, giving off an extremely dangerous feeling. Liao Qixio. When Liang shouted in a deep voice, and his face couldn't help but turn gloomy. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Following that, several fierce and cold figures flashed from all directions. Looking at the experts of the blood-refining hall who appeared around them, the people from Mount Kunliu felt as if they were facing a formidable enemy. They never thought that they would fall into the trap of the blood-refining hall on the first day they arrived in the ancient desolate heaven domain. With the two experts, Ho Lai and Liao Qixio, even when Liang and Qi Hanyu might not be able to gain too much of an advantage, the most troublesome thing was the countless venomous insects, snakes, and ants in front of them. Once a war broke out, the people from Mount Kunliu would definitely suffer a great loss. Are you going to surrender without a fight? Or are you going to fight like a cornered beast? Liao Qixio's dark blue lips curled up, and a strange smile appeared on his face. When Liang's face revealed a disgusted expression, "Looking at your face makes me sick. Surrender without a fight? You're just a bunch of useless things who only know how to use unorthodox method. Do you think that there's no one in Mount Kunliu? You're just using your tongue." Ho Lai's eyes darkened, and then a powerful aura was released from his body. It's useless to say more. Today, I'll let the two of you witness with your own eyes how the people from Mount Kunliu die here. Attack! Kill! Without any superfluous words, Ho Lai ordered. The sky was filled with bloodthirsty poisonous wasps and other venomous insects, snakes and ants, and they directly launched a fierce attack on the people from Mount Kunliu. Tens of thousands of venomous insects started to attack and kill like a magnificent army, showing the power to take lives. After all, the people selected by Mount Kunliu this time were all elite disciples, and they were all experts in the outside world. They were panicked but not in a mess. Immediately, they broke out a powerful true inner force and displayed all kinds of gorgeous skills. These ants want to swallow our Mount Kunliu? Dream on. Kill these stinky insects. Boom! Bang! Under the impact and devastation of the fierce power, the venomous insects, snakes, and ants were killed and crushed into pieces. Although the venomous insects raised by the blood-refining hall had a very powerful attack power, they were not invincible in front of the real elite masters. However, the original intention of the blood-refining hall was not to swallow the people from Mount Kunliu with these venomous insects. In the next second, when the bloodthirsty poisonous wasps launched the first attack, the masters and disciples of the blood-refining hall in the rear area also rose together. They flew out like sharp arrows, rolling up an amazing momentum into the killing. Boom! In an instant, the battle between the blood-refining hall and Mount Kunliu broke out in an instant. Nangongku, Lung Lingyan, Shanzhen, Mu Feng, Qi Zhang, Chu Hen, and the others all joined the battle. In an instant, the sky was filled with the glint of blades and shadows of swords. All kinds of powerful martial arts and secret techniques set off dazzling lights and spiritual runes of various colors. Ripples of mighty shockwaves swept in all directions, causing buildings to collapse one after another. Damn it! I thought I could get some benefits by following a big sect, but I didn't expect to become a fighter as soon as I arrived. Mu Feng cursed in a low voice. Then, he moved his palm, and the pagoda devil sword appeared in his hand. The awe-inspiring blue sword energy formed a tornado-like whirlpool around him, and all the bloodthirsty poisonous wasps that came within 100 meters of him were directly crushed into pieces. Qi Zhang, the sect leader of the Thousand Crane sect, shook his head helplessly. However, before he came, he was fully mentally prepared because anything could happen here. Even if he died here, he could only accept his fate. After all, it was his own choice. Housie, hurry up and call out your handsome rat army. Hua Shui shouted while dodging the flying poisonous insects. Housie was speechless. This is the ancient desolation heaven domain. Stop dreaming. Be careful. Don't joke around. Chu Hen reminded in a deep voice and summoned the sharp sickle of death. The cold and sharp edge rapidly harvested the insects and the enemy's lives. Hua Shui felt a little wronged. She wasn't joking. She thought that the Weasel army would follow Housie wherever he went. In the last battle with the blood-refining Hall, Housie's Weasel army could be said to be invincible. Chu Hen didn't have time to pay attention to Hua Shui. While he was fighting with the enemies, he looked at Qi Hanyu, Wen Liang, Hou Lai, and Liao Qixio, who were confronting each other. This time, the blood-refining Hall lured the team from Mount Kunliu into a trap. They indeed had the momentum to capture everyone in one fell swoop. Chapter 758. Boom. Bang. Buzz. Buzz. The collision of martial arts and skills intertwined with the flying sounds of countless blood-hunting poisonous insects, setting off a monstrous turbulence. On the first day of arriving at the ancient desolate heaven domain, the blood-refining sect and Mount Kunlu unexpectedly met. A fierce battle instantly broke out. Hou Lai and Liao Qixio, the two powerhouses of the blood-refining sect, looked down at Qi Hanyu and Wen Liang with a condescending attitude. When the four people's gazes met, a chilling intent burst out. Hee. Liao Qixio looked at Qi Hanyu and smiled coldly. Then, he raised his palm and made a throat-slitting gesture. His dark blue lips curled up, revealing a ferocious intent. Swoosh. However, in the next second, the space trembled and Qi Hanyu immediately disappeared. At the same time, a dazzling aurora tore through the air and directly slashed at Liao Qixio like a sharp sword piercing through the sky. The latter's pupils shrank. With a bang sound, the streak of light directly struck Liao Qixio's body. Chaotic true Yuan light patterns exploded in the air as a powerful shockwave swept out. Following Liao Qixio was rapidly sent flying backwards, under the dazzling white light. The flying celestial palace master, Qi Hanyu, was as light as a feather. Her whole body emitted a transcendent demeanor. Hey, you've improved a lot since a few years ago. Liao Qixio sneered as he operated the true origin in his body to suppress the surging blood and qi. He remembered that when they fought last time, Qi Hanyu's performance was far less powerful than today. Especially the temperament that she revealed now, it was more stable than before, making it difficult for others to judge her emotional fluctuations. Under such circumstances, it was not something that an ordinary person could still maintain a calm state of mind. Qi Hanyu raised her cold eyes, and the fingers on her slender right hand moved. Shing! A soft sound rang out, and a white sword that was as beautiful as jade appeared in her hand. She flew up, and a holy and pure sword light bloomed. Her powerful aura was like a torrent of water, and it crushed towards the opponent. Liao Qixio's face darkened. He stretched out both his palms, and a gray light surged in his palms. Accompanied by a noisy buzzing sound, densely packed tiny poisonous insects flew out from his palms and rushed towards Qi Hanyu. Qi Hanyu gently raised her wrist and raised her hand. A swift and violent sword light shot out, smashing the swarm of insects in front of her. The smashed swarm of insects turned into countless strands of gray smoke that floated between heaven and earth and shrouded Qi Hanyu's surroundings. Moreover, the gray mist attached itself to Chi Hanyu's true essence defensive shield, corroding her true essence at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chi Hanyu's brows furrowed and the corners of her eyes narrowed. She muttered in a low voice, "Looks like I have to end this quickly." Rumble. At the same time, Wen Liang and Ho Lai exploded with a majestic aura. The former soared into the sky while the latter descended diagonally. The true origin outside their bodies surged, and they were like two meteorites that had unexpectedly met and collided head-on. Bang! Along with a deafening bang, the sky above the entire desolated city was in turmoil. The mighty true origin ripple formed a surging halo. The buildings below were directly shaken to the point of collapsing, and they were reduced to ruins. Wen Liang, you little brat, it's been so many years since we last fought. Your grand devil slayer art has regressed. As the chaotic cyclones converged, the wind and clouds surged, and the color of the sky changed. Faced with Wen Liang, the leader of Devil Slayer Palace, who was famous for his domineering and ferocity, Ho Lai's aura was not suppressed in the slightest. Humph! Wen Liang glared at Ho Lai. The red light soared and danced around his body, as if it was surrounded by the divine flame of the 9 suns. Every move he made revealed a violent and destructive aura. Then go ahead and try. Swoosh! As soon as Wen Liang finished speaking, thunderous sounds resounded around him. He punched out, and a red fist print that shocked the heavens smashed towards Ho Lai like a mountain. The latter did not want to be outdone. He smiled coldly, and a dense black light surged out of his body. Strands of black light patterns interweaved and covered the surface of Ho Lai's skin, and it immediately formed a thick layer of black armor. This layer of armor seemed to be cast from molten iron, and it looked like an indestructible body of steel. Bang! A loud bang sounded. Ho Lai, who had transformed into a body of steel, used the strength of his body to shatter the ferocious huge fist print into light pattern fragments that filled the sky. Wen Liang's figure sped up, and his domineering aura could topple the mountains and overturn the seas as he pressed forward. "I'm going to peel off this layer of turtle shell of yours today." Humph! Wen Liang, you little brat, you're still so arrogant even when you're at death's door. Bang! Boom! 2 different colors of power, one red and one black, blasted the sky. Compared with the battle between Chi Hanyu and Liao Qixio, Wen Liang and Ho Lai were like 2 furious fierce beasts. Once they confronted each other, sparks flew everywhere, airwaves flew everywhere, and even the space was shaken and distorted by the fierce power. The 4 superiors of Mount Kunliu and the blood-refining hall with the highest power started a fierce fight, which made the sky gloomy and gloomy. The battle situation of the 4 people made it difficult for others to get close to them. Although Chi Hanyu and Wen Liang did not show too much emotional fluctuations, everyone knew that they had to seize the initiative and defeat their opponents in the shortest time to establish the victory. Otherwise, the team of Mount Kunliu would be in big trouble. Kill! The fierce scuffle continued to extend. Even though the team of Mount Kunliu fought back strongly, with the help of the countless poisonous insects, the team of the blood-refining hall had already gained the upper hand. Even the bite of 1 or 2 blood-hunting poisonous ladles was enough to make people confused and suffer physical setback. Once the rhythm was messed up, it would be a devastating blow. Get lost! Nangong Hao set off a fierce momentum. He raised his palm high and chopped down like a palm knife. A red palm blade light with peerless momentum chopped out. Rumble! Along with a gully with a width of more than 10 meters on the ground, the disciples of the blood-refining hall and poisonous insects in a straight line in front of him were all smashed into clouds of blood mist. Just when Nangong Hao showed his great power, a flying kick as fast as lightning suddenly attacked from the left side. Buzz! Accompanied by a strong wind that swept toward the opponent's head, Nangong Hao's eyes turned cold, and he directly blocked it with his arm. Pung! An explosive sound rang out, and a violent explosive force exploded between the two. Nangong Hao, who also practiced the Grand Demon Slayer skill, was pushed back by the impact. His feet left deep marks on the ground, and he could only stop after retreating for 7 or 8 meters. Gao Lang. Nangong Hao's face was gloomy and he stared coldly at the figure who attacked him just now. Gao Lang, a top genius of the blood-refining hall, was as famous as Nangong Hao. Before they came to the ancient baron's heaven realm, there were many grudges between them. Gao Lang raised his eyebrows and smiled frivolously. "You don't mind if I take your life today, do you? Humph, let's see if you have the ability to do so." After saying that, Nangong Hao dashed toward Gao Lang like a sharp arrow. His fist that was covered with a red glow smashed toward Gao Lang's head with great power. On the other side, after Lung Lingyan killed more than 10 experts of the blood-refining hall, a ghost-like remnant shadow was rapidly approaching her from behind. "Senior Sister Lung, behind you!" A disciple of Mount Kunliu reminded her loudly. Lung Lingyan immediately turned around and stretched out her palm toward the remnant shadow. Her palm did not reveal the slightest fluctuation of power. It looked weak and powerless, just enough to kill an ant. But even so, the afterimage suddenly unleashed a powerful aura of true origin, not daring to be careless when facing Lung Lingyan's attack. Bang! In an instant, Lung Lingyan's jade-like palm collided head-on with one of the pale palms. A heavy explosion set off an astonishing and violent impact. Gorgeous light patterns spread out, and a thick layer of rubble was flattened on the ground. Then, both of them retreated dozens of meters away. "It's you." Chapter 759. "It's you." Lung Lingyan's beautiful eyes turned cold as she looked at the person who attacked her from behind. "Lung Lingyan, you didn't expect this to happen to you, did you?" An indifferent and flirtatious voice came from a young woman who was about the same age as Lung Lingyan. This woman was quite pretty and had thick makeup on her face. She looked at Lung Lingyan with a frivolous and disdainful gaze. "Humph!" Lung Lingyan snorted. "You're just a loser. How dare you show off in front of me?" "Loser? Are you joking? When have I, Lu Fu, ever been defeated by you? Now!" The corners of Lung Lingyan's mouth curled up slightly. Then, her figure moved and directly turned into several afterimages as she swept towards her opponent. The young woman called Lu Fu's eyes turned cold. She did not show any weakness and exploded with a powerful aura to meet the attack. "You've always been so arrogant." "Of course I'm arrogant because I'm strong, you stupid woman." Lung Lingyan's movement speed was extremely fast and was like a light breeze. She did not release any aura, making it difficult for others to judge the strength of her attack. However, Lu Fu was not an ordinary person. Like Gao Lang, who was fighting with Nangong Bai, she was also a top genius in the blood-refining hall. Her attack and defense were full of powerful sharpness. Boom! The fierce battle between the two great sects destroyed the desolate city with an earth-shattering momentum. Various gorgeous and powerful martial arts collided wantonly, causing the entire space to distort and shake. Blood rained down as severed limbs flew in all directions. With the help of these tens of thousands of poisonous insects, snakes and ants, the blood-refining hall gained the upper hand with an absolute advantage. One by one, the disciples of Mount Kunliu were bitten and destroyed by the blood-hunting poisonous scoop and the bloodthirsty poisonous bees. They died miserably, this group of damned bastards. After killing an enemy with a palm strike, Dan Zhen angrily rebuked. Not far away, Fu Qin, Hua Shui, Ji Shu, Qi Ting and the others were also extremely anxious. If this continued, the Mount Kunliu team would really be annihilated today. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. Then, he said to Mu Feng, Haozi, and the others in a stern voice, "Kill the poisonous insects first." Boom! Before he finished speaking, a powerful purple radiance erupted from Chu Hen's body. The purple radiance surged within his eyes, and the 4 black dots within his pupils rapidly rotated. Along with an extremely icy cold aura, the space in the area above him twisted, and a violent tsunami-like purple flame quickly spread outwards, The demonic flame engulfed the blood-hunting poison ladle and the bloodthirsty giant wasps with the momentum of a prairie fire. The sky changed color, and with crackling sounds, a large number of poisonous insects were reduced to ashes. What? When the masters of the blood-refining hall saw this scene, they were all secretly shocked. The poisonous insects they raised were not afraid of ordinary flames at all. As for the strange purple flames in front of him, its lethality was really strong. Demonic whirlwind slash. Then, Mu Feng also set off a majestic momentum. He waved the pagoda demonic sword in his hand, and countless fierce blue sword gang hovered around him and rotated rapidly. In an instant, a huge tornado vortex with a height of more than 100 feet hit the poisonous insects, snakes, and ants flying between heaven and earth with the momentum of stirring the sky. Rumble! It was as if a storm had struck, and a hurricane enveloped the area. Countless poisonous insects were forcefully crushed to pieces. Haozi, Qizhang, Danzhen, and the others also made the poisonous insects the primary target. As long as they blocked the attack of these poisonous insects, the advantage of the blood-refining hall would quickly disappear. At that time, the people of Mount Kunliu could stabilize their position and survive. However, the blood-refining hall would never allow this to happen. Kill them! A master of the blood-refining hall pointed at Chu Hen, who showed great power with the demonic flame, and shouted, "Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh!" Before he finished his words, more than a dozen aggressive figures, like wolves pouncing on their prey, exuded a cold, murderous aura. Go to hell! Facing the people who surrounded him from all sides, Chu Hen did not have the slightest fear on his face. He leaped and instantly arrived in the void. Then his body rotated rapidly, and along with the violently shaking space, a surge of shocking sword momentum burst out of his body. One sword celestial, myriad sword tribulation. Buzz! In the next instant, countless peerlessly powerful black sword rain blossomed from Chu Hen's body. The densely packed sword light mirage tore through the air and split the air. It was as if it was 1,000 years of time, and it flew in all directions. The people who besieged Chu Hen were all shocked. Before they could recover, the sword light penetrated their bodies one after another. Hiss! Blood splattered, and more than a dozen people were pierced into sieves by the sword light in a burst of screams. The appearance of this scene directly attracted the attention of Liao Qixio and Ho Lai, the two leaders of the blood-refining hall. The latter frowned and spat out a few words coldly. One sword celestial technique. Exactly. When Liang, the master of the demon-slaying hall, crossed his arms, and the red light outside his body surged like a flame. The mountain-like power crushed all the way, and then a red light beam fell from the sky, blasting at Ho Lai like a divine punishment. I'll let you see the real power of the grand demon-slaying technique. The terrifying momentum directly shrouded Ho Lai. Ho Lai's face changed slightly, and he quickly flashed sideways to escape 100 meters away. The next second, the red light beam hit the ground of the barren city below. Bang! The city collapsed and the ground cracked. The endless destructive impact was comparable to a meteorite whizzing down. The ground quickly cracked into a huge sinkhole, and the bricks cracked inch by inch. The dense gravel, big and small, was like a group of startled moths, blotting out the sky and the earth and splashing wantonly. The mighty and powerful shock wave instantly killed countless poisonous insects and many disciples of the blood-refining hall. Bang! On the other side, Qi Hanyu and Liao Qixio also hit each other hard. The silver and gray light patterns spread out vertically, and the piercingly cold air waves were like ripples on the surface of water. Wherever they went, the space was distorted. Looks like your Mount Kunliu has a few good talents in recent years. Liao Qixio's face was a little surprised. Qi Hanyu held her long sword diagonally, and circles of true origin flowed around her body. With her as the center, the heaven and earth faintly produced a shocking and powerful rhythm. You want to swallow our Mount Kunliu? Wishful thinking. Hee, that's not necessarily true. A strange smile appeared on Liao Qishou's face, and then he turned his gaze to Ho Lai, who was elsewhere. It's time to take out the big gift I prepared for them. That's exactly what I intend to do. Ho Lai's eyes were also filled with thick ridicule. Big gift? The people of Mount Kunliu were all shocked, and a huge wave of uneasiness surged in their hearts. Boom! Suddenly, Liao Qishou and Ho Lai's body released an unprecedented momentum. The two of them faced each other with one palm in the air, standing far away. Extremely restless energy flew out from their palms at the same time. Bang! The moment the true origin light beams shot out by the two of them met, it was like two lightning bolts had unexpectedly met, and thousands of sparks and arcs of light were produced. The sky was filled with dazzling arcs of light, and the space between the two immediately fell into an uneasy state of distortion. Dark clouds surged and the world spun. Under the angry roar of the wind, the earth became dark and dull. The blooming arcs of light actually converged to form a magnificent and majestic glyph array. Light and shadow flowed within the glyph array, like a divine disk rumble. Wind and lightning crisscrossed, and the glyph array constantly erupted with dazzling light. Layer after layer of vast waves of air spread out, forming a huge pressure that shook the people below and caused them to continuously retreat, unable to stand steadily. Hee. Liao Qishou laughed proudly. Come out! A species born to kill. Bang! A huge golden light beam erupted from the glyph array, and the light beam struck the desolate city below. The ground cracked layer by layer. Dust flew everywhere, and rocks flew all over the place. A cold and dangerous aura surged out like a surging tide. Kiki. Chapter 760. Tsk Tisk. The temperature in the entire desolate city dropped abruptly as a cold and dangerous aura surged out. Everyone present could feel the cold and dangerous aura from the bottom of their hearts. In the next instant, a gigantic ferocious creature that seemed to have awakened after 1,000 years of slumber appeared before the eyes of the people from Mount Clea Mountain, who were trembling in fear. Swoosh! A vast, cold airwave swept out in all directions like ripples on the surface of water. The ground cracked, sand and stones flew, and the buildings were razed to the ground. This was an extremely ferocious and terrifying evil monster. It looked like a huge venomous scorpion, but in the middle of its body there was the torso and head of a huge ant standing upright. It looked like a combination of a scorpion and a gigantic ant. From afar, the giant ant looked as if it had grown out from the scorpion's back. Its incomparably sharp tentacles were covered with thorns, and its iron pants-like mouth was comparable to a guillotine. Its entire body was covered with a shiny black carapace, as if it was cast from copper, and was impervious to all weapons. Tisk Tsk. Tsk Tsk. The scorpion and the giant ant let out a shrill cry of excitement as their scarlet eyes gleamed with a bloodthirsty light. Looking at this pair of conjoined monsters, everyone from Mount Kunliu felt a chill in their hearts. Other than the other party's terrifying appearance, the aura emitted by this monster caused one's heart to palpitate. This is the faces of Wen Liang, the palace master of Devil Slaughter Palace, and Qi Hanyu, the palace master of Soaring Celestial Palace, were filled with shock. The latter clenched her delicate fists and muttered with a solemn expression, They actually succeeded? Wen Liang's eyes were cold and his face was gloomy. According to the information that Mount Clea Mountain had collected, the blood-refining sect had been researching a new secret tactic in recent years. This kind of secret technique was to combine the bloodlines of two powerful demonic beasts with extremely strong offensive abilities, allowing them to become a new generation of new species. The new species would possess the strength and characteristics of the two beasts and become a more dangerous product. After collecting this information, Mount Kunliu also sent more people to investigate the blood-refining hall, but there was no progress. Later, it was thought that the blood-refining hall gave up the development of this secret skill. After all, it was too difficult to complete this plan. But he never expected that the blood-refining hall had never stopped developing this secret skill. They had been doing it secretly. What was even more surprising was that they actually succeeded. The expressions on your faces are exactly what I'm looking forward to. A proud smile appeared on both Liao Qixue and Hou Lai's faces. The former spread his arms and laughed excitedly. It's a species formed from the fusion of two beast emperor-level demon beasts, the Dark Scorpion Emperor and the Devouring Ant Emperor. We've named it the Evil Beast of Death. Its bloodline will be much stronger than before, ha 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 ha, the demonic beast of death. The expressions of the people from Mount Kunlu changed again and again. They were shocked again and again. Just how powerful would a new species born from the combination of the bloodlines of two top beast kings be? Could it be a terrifying species that was even more powerful than the beast emperors? Heavenly beast? I've been waiting for a long time. The slaughter begins. Liao Qixue's demonic laughter reverberated through the air. In an instant, the evil beast of death seemed to have broken through its shackles. Its two huge and ferocious heads faced the sky and roared. Its entire body was emitting surging black gas. Its sharp tentacles and claws waved like an octopus as it charged towards the people from Mount Kunlu. "Retreat," an elder from Mount Kunlu shouted. "Don't fight it head-on." Rumble. The aura of the evil beast of death was extremely strong. It was like a moving mountain. A few disciples from Mount Kunlu could not avoid it in time and were instantly swept by its huge pincers and claws. Bang! They were smashed into pieces and their heads were separated from their bodies. Humph! What evil beast of death! I'd like to test its capabilities. The eyes of the demon-slaying palace master Wen Liang surged with coldness. As soon as he finished speaking, he moved and swept up billowing flames as he charged towards the evil beast of death. Boom! However, in the next moment, a black light screen appeared out of thin air and flew up like a tsunami, directly blocking Wen Liang's path. "Hey, your opponent is me!" A frivolous sneer could be heard as Hou Lai chased after Wen Liang and struck with his palm. Whang! A palm blade that was hundreds of meters wide slashed down with the might of a thunderbolt. Wen Liang turned around to face the attack. Both of his palms rotated and a scarlet energy ball flew out and bombarded the palm blade. Bang! It was earth-shattering and the sky shook. The powerful forces collided and exploded, creating a raging wave of true essence that covered the sky. Wild gales howled in all directions. Wen Liang's eyes narrowed and he could not help but look at Qi Hanyu who was on the other side. Qi Hanyu nodded. She understood what he meant. "Disciples of Mount Kunlu, listen to my order, retreat, retreat." Qi Hanyu gave the order as fast as she could. The reason why Wen Liang wanted to test the strength of the evil beast of death was completely intentional. Hou Lai intercepted Wen Liang immediately. This was enough to prove that the combat strength of the evil beast of death had not reached the level of a mature heavenly beast. If it was an adult heavenly beast, the people of Mount Kunlu would definitely die today. But now there was still a chance of survival if they retreated at full speed. Immediately, Wen Liang and Qi Hanyu unleashed their strongest power and launched a fierce attack on Liao Qixue and Hou Lai. On the other hand, Nangong Hao, Lung Lingyan, and the other top genius disciples were responsible for covering the retreat of the people of Mount Kunlu. Even so, it was difficult for them to resist the evil beast of death's pursuit and attack. Hee, the disdainful shriek seemed to be mocking the struggle of the people of Mount Kunlu. One after another, the young disciples were crushed by the claws of the evil beast of death. One after another, experts lost their lives under its giant mouth that looked like a man-eating flower. Wherever the evil beast of death went, there were wails. "This dog, let's fight it to the death." Seeing his companions die one after another in front of him, Shan Zhen was filled with rage. Swoosh! He soared into the sky and turned into a ray of light. "Senior brother Shan Zhen, don't be impulsive," Hua Shui exclaimed. However, Shan Zhen was ready to fight with his life on the line. Surging true inner force spread out from his body, and gorgeous golden light patterns flowed around him. They immediately intertwined and transformed into a giant golden eagle with an unparalleled aura. Hee. The evil beast of death let out a disdainful laugh. The poisonous stinger on its tail soared into the sky like a chain. It swept up a strong destructive aura and headed toward the giant golden eagle that Shanzhen had transformed into. Boom! When the two collided, it set off a heavy thunderous sound between heaven and earth. In the next second, the giant eagle shadow outside Shanzhen's body was directly shattered by the impact. It instantly burst into thousands of true inner force fragments. What? Shanzhen's pupils shrank violently. He saw the sharp poisonous stinger, like the stinger of a swordfish shuttling through the deep sea, quickly attacking Shanzhen's chest. Swoosh! At the critical moment, a bitingly cold and ferocious death scythe flew over like a boomerang. When the poisonous stinger was less than 2 meters away from Danjin's chest, it fiercely collided with the stinger's tail. Bang! The scattered energy waves exploded outwards, and the fatal tail stinger was knocked off course, sliding past Danjin's left shoulder. That was close. Fu Qin, Hua Shui Haozi, and the others below could not help but let out sighs of relief. Swoosh! Shortly after, the scythe of the Grim Reaper drew a trajectory in the air before returning to a strong and slender palm. Looking at the person beside her, Shanzhen revealed a look of gratitude. Chapter 761. Get ready to cover me. After saving Danjin, Chu Hen shouted in a deep voice. Boom! In the next moment, a powerful aura erupted from Chu Hen's body, and the death scythe in his hand blossomed with a dazzling cold light. Without saying a word, he directly charged towards the death demonic beast. Hee. Looking at the weak human who had ruined its business, the death demonic beast's dozens of sharp tentacles danced continuously. The ant queen that grew on the back of the giant scorpion actually stood up, and then opened its huge mouth like a man-eating flower. Buzz! With a sound, a dark green beam of light shot out from the mouth of the ant queen, sweeping up an extremely restless and destructive killing intent towards Chu Hen. Be careful! Hua Shui, who was in the area below, exclaimed. The corners of Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. His body moved, drawing a beautiful arc in the sky. While avoiding the impact of the beam of light, he once again increased his speed. The rapid sound of breaking wind was especially ear-piercing. Chi-chi, along with the high-pitched cries of tens of thousands of birds, countless densely packed bolts of black lightning were quickly released from Chu Hen's body and climbed onto the death god's scythe in his hand. The violent power of dark lightning was like a black lightning net, covering the sky and covering the earth as it shrouded the death demonic beast in front of him, facing the terrifying monster that was as large as a small mountain. A cold glint flickered in Chu Hen's eyes. His hands tightly grasped the handle of the death god's scythe, and chopped towards the ant queen's large head with a dragging stance. Evil creature, you have too many heads. I'll take care of one for you, rumble. Dark lightning interweaved, deafening, and the sky darkened. Waves of air surged into the sky. Chu Hen was like the god of lightning in the midst of a storm. The death scythe, which was surrounded by the majestic power of dark lightning, suddenly expanded to a width of 300 meters. Clang! In the blink of an eye, the extremely powerful attack struck the head of the queen ant of death, evil beast. The giant scythe, covered in thousands of lightning tribulations, had the power to split the heavens. Boom! A violent tremor rang out, and the mighty aftermath swept out in all directions. The impact, which was comparable to the undercurrents of the deep sea, instantly exploded between the demonic beast of death and Chu Hen. Space trembled. Chu Hen felt his arms go numb, and his palms felt like they were about to crack. In the next second, the death god's scythe in his hand broke into two with a bang. What? The expressions of Danjin, Hua Shui, Haozi, Su Lang, and the rest of the people from Mount Kunliu changed greatly. Even Chu Hen's weapon had been broken. Just how terrifying was the defense of this demonic beast of death? Jia, the huge body of the demonic beast of death, swayed back and forth as it took a few steps back. The surrounding buildings were crushed into pieces. There was a white mark that was 2 to 3 meters wide on the head of the demonic beast of death. Apart from that, there were no other injuries. Hey idiot! You want to break through the defense of the demonic beast of death with such little ability? You really overestimate yourself. Gao Lang, the top genius of the blood refining hall, sneered disdainfully. Nangong Hao, who was dealing with the demonic beast of death, frowned and his face turned gloomy. Just as the demonic beast of death steadied itself and was about to launch another round of attack, Chu Hen shouted, "Mu Feng, Sect Master Qi Zhang, got it!" Mu Feng shouted. Qi Zhang also replied, "Got it!" Sword Pagoda, Buddha's chop. Mu Feng let out an explosive shout. Immediately, several surging dark blue pillars of light flew out from his body. The dazzling pillars of light were like intertwining dragons that soared into the sky. Mu Feng raised the demon's sword in his hand high up, and a dazzling light pattern burst out. Rumble! A thunderous rumble swept out, and then an ancient pagoda that was 1,000 meters tall appeared in the sky above them. Moreover, a vast and surging desolate and ancient aura swept through the heavens and the earth. After that, the ancient pagoda descended from the sky and crushed down towards the demonic beast of death like a divine object. The demonic beast of death was unable to dodge in time, and a powerful force that was comparable to the weight of Mount Tai collided with its body. In an instant, the heavens collapsed and space warped. Boundless blue light soared into the sky, and layer upon layer of waves of air crushed towards the surroundings. A thick layer of the soil on the ground was scraped off, and the monstrous aura of the demonic beast of death was suppressed once more. With it as the center, an enormous crater swiftly appeared on the ground. But even then, there weren't many injuries on the demonic beast of death. Heaven's Eye! The attack of the 1,000 Crane Sect's sect master, Qi Zhang, followed closely behind. Divine radiance that was as dazzling as the sun appeared in the sky, and then golden rain and divine radiance intersected around Qi Zhang. OM. After that, the vertical eye at the center of Qi Zhang's forehead opened up, and then a beam of silver light shot out explosively from within it. As it moved, the beam of silver light rapidly dispersed and expanded into the shape of an enormous funnel. Swoosh! The funnel enveloped the demonic beast of death, and it instantly seemed as if it had fallen into a swamp. It felt like its entire body was carrying an extremely heavy burden, and its ferocious aura was suppressed once more. But in merely a second, the ferocious aura of the demonic beast of death rebounded. Qi Zhang's face turned pale, and he gritted his teeth as he shouted, "Chu Hen, I can't hold on for much longer. It's already enough." Chu Hen's high-spirited words were spat out from his mouth. Once those words were spoken, everyone present was completely shocked. His voice hadn't finished resounding through the air when Chu Hen's entire body suddenly erupted with dazzling and resplendent starlight, and he seemed like a bright moon that hung high in the sky. Rumble! Swoosh! In the next instant, 7 silver light patterns flew out of his body like spiritual vines, and they extended and expanded endlessly. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down as he shouted in a stern voice, "Fecta chains, trap gods and demons." The 7 silver spiritual vines immediately transformed into 7 enormous thick chains, and under the silver light, the 7 enormous chains looked like wings with flickering light patterns. The silver chains rushed forward at high speed, like 7 silver serpents. Chu Hen stood within the chains, and his aura was monstrous, shocking everyone present. What? At this moment, even Qi Hanyu, Wen Liang, Liao Qixio, and Ho Lai, the 4 top experts, were surprised by the scene before them. Under the astonished gazes of the countless people present, the 7 enormous chains that emitted silver light directly wrapped around the demonic beast of death, and tightly bound it. Heh! The demonic beast of death let out a long, sharp roar, and black gas rose outside its body. It seemed that it was going to break the chains, and its sharp claws and tentacles were flying randomly. However, at this moment Chu Hen, like a flowing light, left a series of shadows in the void, and flashed to the huge head of the queen ant in the twinkling of an eye. A majestic sword momentum comparable to a torrent burst out of Chu Hen's body. With a whoosh sound, a crystal green holy sword appeared in his hand, Blue Ran sword. Liao Qixu's face changed, and then he shouted, "Stop him!" On the other side, Ho Lai also clenched his fists, and his eyes were surging with coldness. "Stop him!" The experts of the blood refining hall flew up and rushed toward Chu Hen. However, Chu Hen was unmoved. He held the hilt of the Blue Ran sword with both hands, and the tip of the sword pointed down. Streaks of dark thunder flew out again and lingered on the sword. Slash! The heavy momentum exploded in everyone's ears. Chu Hen exerted force in his arms, and his blood vessels bulged. He held the Blue Ran sword tightly, and the rapid sound of breaking wind flew past his ears. Under the shocked gazes, the Blue Ran sword, which exuded a strong destructive aura, stabbed diagonally at the white mark caused by the sickle of death on the queen ant's head. Bang! The power of the Blue Ran sword was unstoppable. The terrifying sword momentum suddenly broke the defense layer of the demonic beast of death, and the sharp sword blade deeply pierced into the opponent's head. Then, with a muffled bang sound, a rain of blood and stinky liquid splashed. A green sword light abruptly pierced through the queen ant's head, and with a strong posture, it penetrated one of the giant eyes of the queen ant's head. Chapter 762. Bang! A muffled explosion resounded in everyone's ears. Everyone's pupils violently shrank. A green sword light had pierced through the death evil beast's head, destroying one of its giant eyes. Seeing this scene, everyone in Mount Kunliu was very excited. "Senior brother Chu Hen, well done. Awesome." However, before they could be happy, an incomparably furious and monstrous aura burst out from the body of the evil beast of death. Howl! The howl of the furious evil beast of death changed. Everyone could feel its endless anger and soaring hatred. Boom! In an instant, the surging black gas was comparable to an erupting volcano and a tsunami. The world shook, the sky darkened, and the cold power swept in all directions with the momentum of toppling mountains and overturning seas. The 7 silver chains wrapped around the body of the evil beast of death were all shattered. Chu Hen's face changed slightly. He pulled out the Blue Ran sword and quickly retreated. Rumble! The powerful black airwave was like a raging tsunami, wantonly crashing against all the people and buildings around it. Including Chu Hen, the surrounding experts of Mount Kunliu and the blood refining hall were all shaken and flew backward. Many people with relatively weak cultivation were seriously injured and vomited blood on the spot. Anger. Absolute anger. The evil beast of death kept howling. Although half of the Ant Queen's head was blown off by Chu Hen, the part of the Scorpion King was still intact. The most disgusting thing was that the part of the Ant Queen was not dead yet. The half of the head was still twisting back and forth flexibly, looking extremely ferocious and terrifying. Howl! The angry evil beast of death glared at Chu Hen in front of it with scarlet eyes. Whoosh! It directly flew out and attacked Chu Hen with its huge scorpion pincer. The surging black gas was like a torrent that broke through the dam, unstoppable. Bang! When the two collided, Chu Hen was once again shaken and repelled. The blood in his body surged, and his throat felt slightly salty. This beast is actually so powerful? Chu Hen was secretly shocked. As expected of a new species formed from the fusion of the bloodlines of 2 top beast emperors, it was not something he could resist at all. "Senior brother Chu Hen, let us help you." When a few young disciples of Mount Kunliu saw this, they immediately turned back from the retreating troops, intending to step forward and assist. But in the next second, he was sent flying by the demonic beast of death's poisonous stinger. He crashed heavily onto the ground and vomited blood. Hey! Ho Lai sneered and said, "If you think that this evil beast of death is so easy to deal with, then you're wrong. I'm sorry to tell you that it is completely enraged. It will hunt you down to the end, and it won't rest until it's dead, ha 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 ha. An evil species that was born to kill." Qi Hanyu and Wenliang's expressions grew increasingly grim. The combat power of the demonic beast of death was too strong. With the strength of Chu Hen and the others, they could not contend against it at all. Was Mount Kunliu really going to perish here today? However, at this moment, something unexpected happened again. Chu Hen actually flew in the opposite direction of Mount Kunliu's retreat. Chu Hen! Hua Shui exclaimed in confusion. "I'll lure it away, you guys retreat. I'll help you," Mu Feng said. "No need, you help them cover their retreat." Swoosh! Then, Chu Hen flew across the sky and purposely passed in front of the demonic beast of death. The latter could be said to be extremely furious. Like a ferocious beast that had lost its mind, it turned around and chased after Chu Hen. Humph! He's really a hero who sacrificed himself for justice. Unfortunately, most of those who wanted to be heroes died, especially miserably. Liao Qixio smiled coldly and then said with disdain, "Don't worry about him. The rest of you, go after the defeated troops of Mount Kunliu." In Liao Qixio's opinion, a mere Chu Hen could only die in front of the demonic beast of death. The disparity in strength was so great that there was no need to send reinforcements. In less than 10 minutes, the demonic beast of death would return with Chu Hen's broken limbs. At that time, the remaining troops of Mount Kunliu would be annihilated here. Knowing that Chu Hen was far from being a match for the demonic beast of death, the people of Mount Kunliu took this opportunity to retreat as soon as possible. Haozi, Danzhen, and the others were hesitant about whether they should go and help Chu Hen. After a brief moment of hesitation, it was better not to cause trouble for Chu Hen. After all, it was much easier for him to escape alone than with 2 people. Retreat. I hope you can come back alive. Lung Lingyan watched the man and the beast disappear into the sky. Her eyes were filled with some complicated emotions. Nangong Ju's eyes narrowed slightly. Then, he moved and retreated while fighting. Roar! The demonic beast of death was so strong that Chu Hen did not dare to stop for even a moment. The cold and gloomy aura was like the north wind blowing on his back. Chu Hen raised his speed to the fastest. His slightly serious face did not have the slightest hint of panic. Boom! Bang! The demonic beast of death was extremely violent in the process of chasing. Mountains and peaks were flattened by it. Mountains collapsed and the ground cracked. Rocks flew everywhere. Shock waves surged down one after another. Chu Hen was secretly startled. This beast was really not just a normal kind of ferocious. At this moment, he could not help but admire the ability of the blood-refining hall to create such a powerful and abnormal species. The strength of the demonic beast of death was at least at the level of a level 7 or 8 beast emperor. Once it reached adulthood, it was very likely to become a heavenly beast. Heavenly beast. To Chu Hen, who was currently only at the 2nd level of the Earth Profound Realm, it could truly be said to be a colossus. The demonic beast of death was chasing more and more fiercely. The distance between them was shrinking rapidly. The demonic beast of death was in a rage. It would not stop until it killed Chu Hen. Chu Hen, on the other hand, calmly and unhurriedly moved forward. Moreover, he constantly changed the direction he was heading towards. Towering mountains, lush forests, and very quickly, a vast deep pool appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. There was a slope in the middle of the pool. As far as the eye could see, below the precipitous precipice, there was clear water and blue waves. It was a beautiful and unique scene. This is it. Chu Hen curled his lips slightly. He looked back at the demonic beast of death, which was less than 200 meters away from him. I'm going to give it to you as a friend, Howl. The demonic beast of death was more furious. It waved its sharp claws and pounced on him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. He directly rushed to the deep pool. At the same time, the blue sky sword in his hand burst out a strong sword light. He waved his sword. A sword light with a width of 300 meters flew out. It directly hit the deep pool and caused endless waves. In the next second, a giant beast seemed to be awakened at the bottom of the deep pool. Chapter 763. Rumble. The violent turbulence instantly destroyed the tranquility of the deep pool. Along with the raging waves that soared into the sky, more than a dozen incomparably huge and sturdy tentacles directly flew out from the bottom of the pool. Like a mad dragon emerging from the sea, they rolled up an irresistible momentum and attacked Chu Hen. At the same time, the ferocious and earth-shaking evil beast behind him had already caught up. Boundless ferocious energy that was comparable to the attack of a mountain came crashing down. Its scorpion pincers danced, and its giant claws swung wildly, displaying a life-threatening momentum. In front of him was the giant pool beast, and behind him was the evil beast. In an instant, Chu Hen was directly trapped in a siege from both the front and the back. They were all here to take his life. The pressure formed by the might of these two forces caused the space where Chu Hen was to fall into a distortion. Even the defensive power of the true Yuan outside his body was crushed and shattered. However, at this critical moment, Chu Hen suddenly flipped his left hand, and a warm and lustrous jade pendant appeared in his palm. His true Yuan was rapidly injected into the jade pendant, and soon after, the jade pendant immediately blossomed with a gentle light pattern. Buzz! With a trembling sound of air waves, a powerful radiance completely wrapped Chu Hen within it. In the next second, the radiance rapidly converged, and together with Chu Hen, disappeared from where he was. Bang! Immediately after, the huge tentacles of the giant pool beast collided with the giant claws of the evil beast. Monstrous splashes exploded one after another, shaking the heavens and the earth. Wu Jie! The disappearance of Chu Hen directly caused the evil beast's anger to soar. In its rage, the other party waved its scorpion pincers without any regard for the consequences, and subsequently cut off the two tentacles of the giant pool beast. Once this happened, it immediately aroused the wrath of the mysterious underwater giant beast. The surging ferocious power was comparable to an erupting volcano, and the huge tentacles quickly began to entangle the evil beast. Swoosh! At this moment, on a mountain ridge about 500 miles away, a bunch of illusory afterimages appeared in the void, and then steadily flashed and landed on the peak of a mountain, transforming into a figure. Who? Feeling the peace around him, Chu Hen breathed a sigh of relief. He had finally shaken off that monster. I've used up another life-saving opportunity. Chu Hen lowered his head to look at the exquisite jade pendant in his hand. The soft light slowly faded away, and with a slight cracking sound, a second crack appeared on it. He could only use it 3 times. A few months ago, when he encountered Tuoba Shah and was being chased by that mysterious expert, he had used up one chance. Today was the second time, so it could still be used once more. Of course, Chu Hen was also in a situation where he had no other choice. In that situation just now, Chu Hen had 2 choices. One was to use the life-saving jade pendant, and the other was to consume the post-cauldron rebirth pill that the flying immortal hall master, Qi Hanyu, had bestowed upon him. But in comparison, the former was safer. It's about time to be the Oriole. Don't disappoint me, then. Chu Hen flew up and looked at his surroundings. After determining his location, he turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the horizon. To Chu Hen, the ancient desolation heaven domain was like a brand new world. Here, the various sects, forces, and races wouldn't have any restrictions or restraints. Many hostile sects could settle their grudges without any fear, rather than saying that the ancient desolation heaven domain was a blessed land left behind by the great figures of the past generations. It was more like a place of competition. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. Did I go in the wrong direction? Soon, Chu Hen discovered that he had chosen the wrong direction. Previously, the deep pool was located under a cliff, and there was plenty of vegetation nearby. However, this place was a desolate desert. Without much hesitation, Chu Hen changed his direction and continued to move forward. Right now, he still did not know the specific situation of Mount Kunliu and the blood refining hall. After cleaning up the mess at the deep pool, he had to hurry back to Mount Kunliu's team as soon as possible. About a quarter of an hour later, Chu Hen successfully returned to the deep pool. Before even reaching the deep pond, Chu Hen could clearly feel an incomparably intense, heaven-shaking turbulence. The mountains trembled, the vegetation swayed, and the ferocious beast roars shook in all directions. This? Chu Hen was secretly shocked. As expected, it was a terrifying existence that was comparable to the death evil beast previously. He had personally witnessed the giant beast of the deep pool killing 4 experts of the earth-profound realm in an instant. It seemed like he had made the right choice in luring the evil beast of death here. Immediately, Chu Hen concealed his aura and quietly approached the front. As soon as he arrived at the deep pool, Chu Hen was instantly stunned by the scene in front of him. Magnificent! Absolutely magnificent! The originally clear blue pool could be described as overturning rivers and seas, and the soil slopes in the middle of the pool were all gone. Inside the pool, 2 terrifying monsters were engaged in a fierce battle. In addition to the death evil beast, which was covered with shells, the other monster had many strong tentacles with suckers and a crimson soft body. Its appearance was very similar to a giant octopus. However, it was different from an octopus in that its head was more like a giant skull. Its dark and evil appearance was like a creature from hell, which made people shudder. Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed, and his face showed a bit of surprise. It was the first time for him to see this kind of demon beast, and he had never even heard of it before. However, it was undeniable that the opponent's fighting strength was particularly strong. Boom! Bang! The fight between the demon beasts was far more wild and rude than that of human beings. The tentacles of the skull octopus entangled the body of the death evil beast, which constantly struggled and fiercely stabbed the head of the opponent with its giant scorpion claws. Jie, the demonic beast of death with 2 heads, was even more brutal. Its whole body was emitting a thick black wave of air. Then, it let out a sharp whistle. The poisonous scorpion's stinger that was hidden on its back suddenly pierced through the air and pierced the skull octopus's face with a strong and dangerous aura. Woo! The skull octopus immediately let out a bugle-like cry, and at the same time, the skin of the opponent that was hit instantly changed from crimson to dark purple. With one hit, the death evil beast was extremely excited. It waved its claws, and once again stabbed the eyes of the opponent. However, the skull octopus stood up with its tentacles, lifted its huge body, and climbed onto the back of the death evil beast. Following that, the skull octopus's huge mouth opened, and sharp parrot-like teeth came out of its mouth, and quickly bit the head of the ant queen of the death evil beast. The death evil beast had a bad feeling, and struggled with all its might. However, this time, the skull octopus was obviously faster, and immediately closed its sharp parrot-like teeth. Bang! With an explosive sound, the ant queen's head exploded like a watermelon, and all kinds of stinky red and white mucus splattered everywhere. Wu Jie! The heavily injured death evil beast rolled violently in the water, and huge waves rose to the sky. The skull octopus tightly wrapped around the death evil beast, and the suckers on each of its tentacles were firmly attached to the body of the death evil beast. No matter how much the death evil beast struggled, the skull octopus would not let go. The clear pond was stirred up, and became extremely turbid. The death evil beast wanted to climb out, but the skull octopus was struggling to drag it down. The scene of the 2 beasts fighting was very spectacular. Buzz! However, at this moment, a powerful aura suddenly shrouded the world. Swish! In the next moment, a bright green holy sword flew high up in the sky, and attracted the power of heaven from all directions. The green holy sword rotated rapidly, stirring up the sky, and immediately transformed into thousands of peerless sword shadows. The thousands of sword shadows transformed into a magnificent and peerless sword rainbow. The biting cold murderous aura crushed the whole area. The two ferocious beasts below didn't even have time to react, and the thousands of peerless sword shadows slanted down like the 9 heavens Milky Way, rolling up an endless destructive aura, and attacking their bodies. Bang! The air waves soared to the sky, and the sword light flashed. The swift and fierce sword shadows penetrated the skull octopus's head, and the death evil beast's back. In an instant, blood rained down, and the ferocious beasts wailed. Chapter 764. Hiss! A circle of powerful sword chi waves swept across the deep pool below. Layers of ripples surged up, and the central area of the pool sank deeply. A scarlet rain of blood quickly dyed the pool red, and it spread to the surroundings. Roar! Woo! After a short and hurried wail, the huge bodies of the skeletal octopus and the demonic beast of death were like overturned ships. With a bang sound, they heavily smashed onto the ground, splashing countless splashes that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Shio! Soon after, the blue-ran sword dragged out a vigorous airwave-light image in the air, and returned to Chu-Hen's palm. Standing at the peak of the mountain, Chu-Hen looked down at the deep pool. He looked at the death-demonic beast that had died in the arms of the skeletal octopus, and slowly let out a sigh of relief. Killing this death-demonic beast had made a great contribution to Mount Kunliu. Even so, Chu-Hen couldn't help but shake his head. In his opinion, it wasn't worth it to use up a life-saving opportunity to lure the death-demonic beast here. After all, this was only the first day in the ancient desolate heaven domain. What they would encounter in the future was still unknown. Especially for Wuwang Valley, where Yi Yao was. He had to be fully prepared to face the young valley master, Shintu Etian. But now, he didn't even know where the team from Wuwang Valley was. When he thought of this, Chu-Hen suddenly felt that there were still many things he had yet to accomplish. "Let's meet up with the team first," Chu-Hen murmured softly. He immediately prepared to leave, but just as he turned around, he subconsciously glanced at the pool and was suddenly stunned. Something unexpected happened. The skeletal octopus and the death-demonic beast's corpses had shrunk a lot. What was going on? Chu-Hen frowned slightly. He knew that some demonic beasts had the ability to change their size, but they had already been killed by him. The two corpses didn't have that ability. Then, under Chu-Hen's increasingly shocked gaze, the corpses of the two demonic beasts shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. Compared to before, their bodies had shrunk a lot. This? Something is devouring their blood essence. The sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow's voice rang in Chu-Hen's mind. Chu-Hen was slightly startled. He glanced sideways and said, "Can you not say the same thing every time? It scares people to death." "What else?" "Wait until I want to ask you, then you can speak." "I wasn't in the mood at that time," the man retorted in disdain. Chu-Hen couldn't help laughing. He gently sniffed and returned to the topic. "What did you say just now? There's something underwater?" "You'll know once you go down and take a look." Chu-Hen was a little hesitant. "What? Are you afraid of death?" The saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow continued to make sarcastic remarks. "Don't worry, there are no signs of living beings below. In other words, that ghost octopus is the only living being here." "Ghost octopus?" Chu-Hen was slightly surprised. The name was quite vivid. In just a few blinks of an eye, the skeletal octopus and the demonic beast of death were left with a layer of dry skin and an empty shell. Their blood essence was sucked dry in an instant. Looking at the scene before him, the curiosity in Chu-Hen's heart was completely aroused. Then, with a movement of his body, he turned into a beam of light and plunged into the water like a sharp sword. After the fierce battle, the deep pool quickly calmed down. The turbid pool water also slowly became clear again. The cold current penetrated the true essence defense layer and attacked Chu-Hen. He raised his guard and dived into the deep pool. Although the saintly winged heavenly flame sparrow said that there were no signs of living beings underwater, this was the ancient desolate heaven realm. He had to show respect to anything unknown. The deep pool was very deep, dark, and cold. Because it was close to the mountain wall, there were many cold and hard rocks and caves underwater. The pitch-black caves gave off a mysterious and unfathomable feeling of oppression. A ferocious underwater creature could rush out at any time. Slowly and unknowingly, Chu-Hen had already reached a depth of nearly a kilometer. In the dark underwater world, a ray of refracted light was caught by the corner of Chu-Hen's eyes. Following this weak light, he could vaguely feel a trace of ruthless aura. This ruthless aura originated from the demonic beast of death and the skeletal octopus's blood essence. Looks like I'll know what's going on soon. Chu-Hen's eyes were slightly cold as he followed the refracted light. Immediately after, a gentle light pattern illuminated the space below. In such a dark and cold environment, the light was like a bright moon in the endless night. Dazzling and dazzling, there were countless large and small rocks piled up at the bottom of the clear water. In the center of the rocks, there was a strange stone that looked like a gem. This stone was oval, 3 to 4 meters long and 2 meters wide. It looked like a large inkstone. The inkstone had a jade-white luster, and it was covered with exquisite stone patterns. What's that? Chu-Hen raised his eyebrows and approached the inkstone. He saw that the stone patterns on it were bright red and emitted an astonishing ruthless aura. It was the power of the demonic beast of death and the skeletal octopus's blood essence. The patterns formed by the blood essence slowly flowed on the inkstone and seeped into it. Very quickly, all the stone patterns disappeared without a trace. However, the light emitted by the inkstone was surging with strands of dense red mist. What a strange thing! As soon as Chu-Hen finished speaking, the sacred-winged heavenly flame bird's excited voice sounded. It's actually the immortal breeding inkstone. Damn brat, I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have, immortal breeding inkstone? What's this? Chu-Hen was both excited and puzzled. You don't know? That's right. With your level, it's impossible for you to come into contact with something of that level. The sacred-winged heavenly flame bird said. Chu-Hen rolled his eyes in annoyance. Can you only talk about this? I'm in a hurry. The other party snorted and said with a slightly moved expression, let's put it simply. The immortal breeding inkstone is a material used to forge artifacts. What? Artifact? Hiss. Even Chu-Hen could not help but gasp when he heard these two words. He did not expect the stone in front of him to have such a great origin. This was indeed a level that he could not come into contact with. Apart from that, the greatest effect of the immortal breeding inkstone is that it can absorb all kinds of energy from the outside and store it. If it's used to forge artifacts, it can greatly increase the grade and power of a weapon. After listening to the other party's explanation, Chu-Hen narrowed his eyes and rubbed his chin. To you, just the material used to forge artifacts shouldn't be enough to make you so excited, right? Chapter 765. The immortal incubation inkstone was a precious material used to refine divine weapons. Divine weapons only existed in legends to the current Chu-Hen. Not to mention coming into contact with one, he hadn't even heard of one. On the other hand, this immortal spirit-giving inkstone that was a few meters wide required at least 2,000 to 3,000 years to be nurtured. Once it was released to the outside world, the sects and powers of the entire Eastern Victory State would probably fight to the death for it. After listening to the Saint-Wing Heavenly Flame Sparrow's explanation, Chu-Hen's heart was filled with restless waves, and his eyes flickered with a hint of pleasant surprise. The ancient desolate heaven territory is really filled with treasures. I never expected such a precious treasure to be hidden in a pool like this. Take it. Chu Hen didn't even think before he started to take the immortal incubation inkstone. Because this immortal incubation inkstone was connected to a huge rock below, Chu Hen first used the blue sky sword to cut the entire immortal incubation inkstone apart from the rock layer. The immortal incubation inkstone that emanated dense energy looked like a peculiar bed made of cold jade, and it revealed an extremely pure and powerful fluctuation of energy. I'll take it with me first and slowly study it later. Chu Hen immediately placed the immortal incubation inkstone into a separate storage device. After doing all this, Chu Hen's figure flashed, and he moved towards the top of the pool. Rumble! The surging water exploded on the surface of the deep pool, and Chu Hen flashed high up into the sky along with a wave of water mist. He glanced at the two withered corpses of the enormous beasts that floated on the surface of the water, and he didn't stay here any longer. He swiftly returned to the way he came from. Not long after, the desolate city where the fierce battle between Mount Kunliu and the Blood Refinement Hall had erupted gradually appeared within Chu Hen's field of vision. After the chaotic battle, the desolate city had returned to its usual deathly silence and peace. However, the difference was that the desolate city had been reduced to ruins, and all the buildings in the city had been reduced to ruins. As far as the eye could see, the ground was littered with corpses and dead venomous insects, snakes, and ants. Looks like the battlefield has shifted. I wonder if Mount Kunlio has successfully retreated. Chu Hen muttered softly. The battle between the sects was indeed intense. In the blink of an eye, an entire city had been destroyed. Moreover, based on the previous situation, Qi Hanyu, Wen Liang, Ho Lai, and Liao Qixio had held back. They all knew that this was only the beginning of the ancient desolate heaven domain. After staying here for a while, Chu Hen once again headed in the direction of Mount Kunliu's retreat. Walking in the air, he was particularly cautious about the surrounding environment. After all, in this case, there was a higher probability of encountering the people of the Blood Refining Hall first. At that time, before they could regroup with their companions, they would be killed. Very soon, day and night changed, and it was already evening. As the sky continued to darken, the traces left behind by the team in front were gradually covered by the night sky. Especially in this strange environment, it was even more difficult to determine the direction and route. Not long after, Chu Hen discovered that he had already lost the target of his pursuit. In all directions, there was only desolation and silence. I can only try my luck. Immediately, Chu Hen randomly chose a direction and began to pursue. However, another 4 hours passed, and he still found nothing. Looking at the unfamiliar towering mountains and precipitous ridges, rock caves, and deep ravines, Chu Hen's face revealed a helpless smile. It seemed that the more he chased, the further he went. This time, he had completely lost the target of the main group. However, on second thought, the biggest threat, the death evil beast, had already been trapped and killed by him. In addition, under the leadership of the Fairy Temple Master and the Demon-Slaying Temple Master, they should not be defeated by the Blood Refining Hall. After all, Mount Kunlio was an upper-class sect in the Dongxing state. How could it be destroyed here so easily? Thinking of this, Chu Hen's eyebrows relaxed, and the worry in his eyes faded away. At this moment, a strange chill suddenly rose in the surroundings. Chu Hen was slightly startled. Following that, he discovered that a dense fog had risen from the mountain forest in front of him. The misty white fog was like the water vapor and dust that floated in the air. It quickly enveloped the entire area and spread towards Chu Hen's location. Very quickly, Chu Hen's body was restricted by the dense fog, and he could only see a distance of around 200 meters. It was normal for it to be foggy at night. Chu Hen did not have too many other thoughts. However, the mist made Chu Hen lose the only remaining sense of direction. Then he could only move aimlessly according to his feelings. Chu Hen bypassed the deep mountains and cliffs, but Chu Hen could not walk out of the area shrouded in the mist. Not only that, but the area he reached was even more deserted and desolate. Swoosh. Suddenly, a sharp and hurried sound of something breaking through the wind came from behind him. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold and he shouted coldly, "Who is attacking me from behind?" A beam of dark golden light was reflected in his indifferent eyes. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. What appeared in front of him was actually a strange bone bird. There was no flesh or blood on this bone bird's body, and only a skeleton was left. In its empty eye sockets, a pair of blood-red eyes shone with a strange light. Not a living creature? Chu Hen was stunned. He could feel a thick death aura from the other party's body. If it was a living creature, it should not have such a heavy death aura. Chu Hen instinctively dodged to the side. Swoosh! The bone bird flew past his shoulder. Then, it drew an arc in the air and charged towards Chu Hen again. It was fast, like an arrow leaving the bow, and was very aggressive. Again? A sliver of disdain appeared on Chu Hen's face. He swung his palm out, and the boundless force of his palm surged down like a violent wave. In an instant it struck the body of the bone bird. The latter was directly shattered into fragments of light that filled the sky. They fluttered in all directions, and disappeared without a trace. However, after a while, Chu Hen discovered that in the sky above the forest in the area ahead, there were still rays of beautiful golden light flickering. The light rays moved freely in the fog. When he looked carefully, the light rays were all kinds of strange creatures. Most of these creatures were skeleton-like things, and they looked very evil. What the hell are these things? Chu Hen was even more confused. He immediately asked the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow, "Do you know?" "Demon spirit. Looks like you've unintentionally entered a land of extreme negative energy." Demon spirit? Land of extreme negative energy? Chu Hen frowned slightly. What's a demon spirit? It's a group of spirits that have almost no intelligence. They're formed from the remnant thoughts and souls of dead creatures. Demon spirits don't have a physical body, and they don't have any thoughts. The only thing they can do is to continuously obtain spiritual energy to survive in this world. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow explained. The birth of a demon spirit requires a place with a lot of yin qi, and the spirit qi also needs to reach a relatively abundant level. Some demon spirits can even attach themselves to flowers, trees, birds, insects, and strange beasts to survive, and even some objects and tools can become their shelter. The reason why that bone bird attacked you just now was because you have a lot of spirit qi in your body, and it was completely subconscious. I see. The world is really big, and there are all kinds of strange things. However, they're not aggressive at all. That's not necessarily the case. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow refuted Chu Hen's thoughts. Although demon spirits generally don't have any intelligence, they're still dangerous. Some demon spirits will continuously devour other demon spirits or some treasures during the process of strengthening. After a long time, there'll be powerful existences among the demon spirit. I've seen a demon spirit at the profound heaven stage before. No way. Chu Hen felt chills running up his spine when he heard the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow's words. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow added, however, in my opinion, there won't be a demon spirit at that level in the ancient desolate heaven realm. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched slightly. This stupid bird was really good at playing tricks. He was almost fooled by it. Chapter 766. Chu Hen looked at the white fog that enveloped the mountain forest, as well as the demon's spiritual body that was moving through the white fog. Following the sacred-winged heavenly flame bird's suggestion, Chu Hen immediately landed on the ground. He would stay here for the time being, and would leave after daybreak tomorrow. At daybreak, the day and night cycle would change, with the sun dominating. At that time, the yin qi would weaken, and most of the demon spirits would go into hibernation. Although the demon spirits were creatures with low intelligence or no intelligence, they were more aggressive. In a situation where the road ahead was full of uncertainty, waiting for the day to move was the best choice. Once he returned to the ground, there were also many demon spirits gathered. However, these demon spirits were basically of a lower level. There were enchanting tree spirit vines, strange frogs running around everywhere, and some small stone monsters. Compared to the withered bone demon spirits flying in the sky, the little fairies on the ground were much cuter. There were even a few palm-sized stone demon spirits jumping around Chu Hen's feet, as if they were trying to attract their attention. Chu Hen could not help but laugh. These little things did not have any offensive power, so there was no need to get rid of them. Soon after, Chu Hen temporarily rested on a soft grassy field, waiting for the arrival of dawn. Woo! Ayo! The mountain forest was especially lively at night. From time to time, loud cries could be heard coming from the deep canyon in the distance. From time to time, a few demon spirits collided with each other, and a battle broke out. The chirping of insects, the whistling of birds, and the singing of nightingales. Listening to the lively music around him, Chu Hen's eyes became a little hazy, and he faintly felt the urge to sleep. Screech! At this moment, a loud and clear bird cry sounded in his mind. Chu Hen's body trembled, as if he had woken up from a dream. Then, he felt his heart beat violently, and even his blood flowed quickly. "What's wrong with you now?" Chu Hen frowned. Just as he was about to scold, he found that there were many demon spirits gathered around him. Pairs of strange red pupils were like fierce wolves and dogs staring at their prey. Scram! Chu Hen secretly roared. A powerful aura gushed out from his body. A circle of majestic black light spread out in a sweeping manner, completely shattering the demonic spiritual bodies that were eyeing him covetously. "Sorry." Then Chu Hen said apologetically. "Humph." The sacred wing heavenly flame bird snorted coldly and mocked. "You're not afraid of death. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want in the ancient, desolate heaven domain with your cultivation?" Chu Hen touched his nose. "I was careless. I don't know why I felt sleepy just now. The yin qi here is too heavy. The yang qi in your body has been weakened, and it's easy for you to fall into a coma." "I see. Thank you for your concern." Chu Hen laughed heartily. This was the first time he was sincerely grateful to the other party. After a brief silence, the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow's voice rang out again. "It seems like I need to teach you a secret technique." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "What secret technique?" "This secret technique is called the Sea of Universe technique. The name sounds pretty scary. Get lost if you don't want to learn it." "I didn't say I don't want to learn it. Continue." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and shook his head with a smile. "Humph, idiot. Don't beg me to teach you after I'm done." The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow was displeased and continued, "This universal absorption technique can allow your true origin violet palace to form a little world that can contain the energy of everything in the world. Isn't it already?" Chu Hen asked in confusion. "Your current true origin violet palace is only able to contain and collect shapeless spirit energy, yet it's unable to contain material substances. Whereas, the world absorption art can absorb some weapons, sacred objects, precious treasures, and other material substances into the true origin violet palace." The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow explained. "Wait, you mean to say that my true origin violet palace can be turned into a storage ring?" "Yes, it's similar." The corner of Chu Hen's eyes slightly twitched. He suddenly had a feeling that he had nothing better to do. He had a storage device, so why did he have to spend so much effort to turn his true Yuan Violet Palace into a storage ring? It was really boring. However, based on his understanding of the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow, Chu Hen thought it would not come up with such a boring secret technique to kill time. He immediately asked, "Then what?" "After that, you will be able to store some treasures into your true essence Violet Palace, and according to the different characteristics of those treasures, you will be able to strengthen your true essence Violet Palace. What I'm thinking of now is that immortal spirit nurturing inkstone. If you were to absorb it into your true essence Violet Palace, the immortal spirit-nurturing inkstone would be able to absorb the immortal spirit energy of the world. Hearing these words, Chu Hen's eyes couldn't help but light up. That's right. Why didn't I think of the celestial nurturing inkstone's characteristics of absorbing the essence of the sun, moon, and heaven and earth spirit energy? If I put it in my true origin violet palace, wouldn't I be in a state of cultivation at all times? At that time, he would be able to enjoy the fruits of others' labor and save a lot of cultivation time. Do you still want to learn it now? The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow sneered frivolously. Chu Hen rubbed his forehead. How difficult is this secret technique? How long will it take to complete? It's not very difficult. It varies from person to person. A smart person would be able to complete it in a day, but a stupid person would not be able to complete it even after 3 to 5 years. In fact, at the level I was at, almost all experts put their weapons and treasures in their true origin violet palace. After a weapon is immersed in true origin energy for a long time, not only will it gradually strengthen the weapon, but it will also become easier to use. After hearing this, Chu Hen came to a sudden realization and could not help but be tempted. But I still don't understand why you're suddenly so good to me. You're thinking too much. There are still many opportunities in the ancient desolate heaven domain. If you can grasp it well, I can quickly return to my peak. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow had been in Chu Hen's body for so long that it understood each other's thoughts very well. There was no need for the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow to lie to it. At the very least, it was certain that the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow would definitely not harm Chu Hen. After all, to the sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow, helping Chu Hen was equivalent to helping itself. All right, but I still have to thank you. Then, it took out hundreds of high-grade origin crystals and scattered them around to set up a small defensive talisman array. I hope I'm not the stupid person you're talking about. That's hard to say. The sacred-winged heavenly flame sparrow mocked indifferently. Then, it began to guide Chu Hen in detail on how to cultivate the universal absorption technique. Chapter 767. The mountain forest that was shrouded in fog was like a heavenly barrier that blocked the sky. The vast expanse of white was like a majestic gorge. Even though it was nighttime, it still gave off a majestic aura that seemed like it could dominate the galaxy. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. The fog that permeated the mountain still showed no signs of dissipating. Moreover, every night it would be chaotic and noisy. Many strange demon spirits circled around like a group of demons dancing. At this moment, in a defensive formation surrounded by spiritual patterns, Chu Hen sat on the ground, his expression as steady as a rock, his hands placed flat on his knees. In front of his dantian, there was a ball of golden light floating. The light was like a ball of string, spinning slowly and steadily, buzz buzz. An obscure and restless energy wave was constantly emitted from Chu Hen's body, and the surrounding space faintly produced a strange rhythm. The ball of light expanded and shrunk from time to time. Then, Chu Hen slowly raised his arms, his palms facing the ball of light. A powerful wave of air fluttered his clothes and black hair, and the invisible aura seemed to control the stars. Under Chu Hen's gradual control, the ball of light was violently restless, like a bulging water ball that was wantonly swaying. The speed of rotation continued to increase, and along with a strong and dazzling light pattern, a whirlpool-like hole suddenly formed in the center of the ball of light. This hole seemed to be a door that led to a certain space. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and his pupils constricted. Then, he raised his hand, hua. A wave of air trembled, and a dazzling, ice-jade bed that emitted a dense aura landed on the ground in front of him. Withdraw! Chu Hen shouted in a low voice, and with a buzz, a strong wave of air spread out, and the whirlpool-like hole in the center of the golden ball of light released an astonishing suction force towards the immortal pregnancy stone. Then, the immortal pregnancy stone seemed to be enveloped by a ball of gentle light, and it slowly left the ground. swish. Then, it turned into a stream of light and instantly entered the golden ball of light, disappearing in front of Chu Hen. Success! Chu Hen's eyes lit up, and then his consciousness moved, diving into the purple palace of true essence. The true origin violet palace of the second level of the Earth's profound realm was merely like a primal chaos space that had opened up a territory. But it was not an exaggeration to say that anyone who saw the appearance of this true origin violet palace would be shocked to the point of being dumbstruck. The chaos force, which was comparable to the fiend god's body, and the fiend god's eyes, which were like the eyes of a fiend god, each guarded one direction. The dark lightning force covered the sky, and the seven stars force and the yin-yang force remained here, screech. This time, there was also a holy sparrow that was exuding an aura that looked down on all things. Rumble! At this moment, accompanied by the sound of rolling stones, a mountain ridge split open and a cold jade stone bed slowly rose up. The immortal spirit-breeding inkstone was placed at the top of the mountain ridge like a divine stone. Dazzling lines of light extended from the ground and quickly circled around the immortal spirit-breeding inkstone. Then, something amazing happened. The immortal spirit-breeding inkstone was like a treasure that had been activated. It released a flickering light, and wisps of pure spirit energy flowed along the lines of light on the ground and merged into the earth. Buzz buzz! In an instant, Chu Hen's true essence violet palace produced a slight rhythm, and the surrounding primal chaos slowly opened up at a slow speed. Many of the barren ground and mountain ridges had actually sprouted green grass. What pure energy! Chu Hen was secretly pleasantly surprised. As expected of a treasure used to refine divine artifacts, the immortal spirit-breeding inkstone was like a special heart of the earth that continuously delivered blood. What was even more amazing was that Chu Hen could already feel the spirit energy of heaven and earth flowing into his body on its own. He didn't need to deliberately absorb it. How is it? I didn't lie to you. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow spun in the air, its powerful aura covering the sky and earth. Chu Hen was overjoyed. Then, with a thought, he activated the Sea of Heaven and Earth technique. The path connecting his true essence violet palace to the outside world opened once again, whoosh! Then two black shadows suddenly flashed over. The black shadows swept up a powerful aura and landed on a mound. Thump! The ground trembled slightly, and the yin and yang energy that permeated the air became especially restless. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow was slightly surprised. Upon closer inspection, it saw that it was a stone that was 1/2 meter tall and the size of a fist. It was the fragment of the great Tao divine stone that Chu Hen had obtained. One of the fragments was given to Chu Hen by Yi Yao, and it possessed astonishing yin and yang energy. Once the two fragments of the great Tao divine stone entered this place, Chu Hen immediately used the spirit patterns formed by his true essence to circle around the two fragments. In the next moment, a wave of restless yin and yang energy surged out from the god's stone fragment and spread in all directions. It really worked. Chu Hen was once again pleasantly surprised. Just now, he only had the thought of giving it a try, to see if the power contained in the fragment of the great Tao divine stone could fuse with his own power in the Zhen Yuan Violet Palace. He didn't expect that it would be useful. The legendary great Tao divine stone was a supreme treasure between heaven and earth. It had the shocking power to manipulate the universe and move the stars. Just one of the fragments was enough to benefit Chu Hen. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the power of the entire great Tao divine stone was. Feeling the subtle changes in the true essence Violet Palace, Chu Hen opened his eyes and revealed a satisfied smile. As soon as the spiritual energy floating in the forest came into contact with Chu Hen's skin, it was automatically absorbed. He didn't need to control it at all. From today onwards, he was in a state of cultivation at all times. Based on this situation, it wouldn't be long before he could complete a breakthrough in cultivation. In just a few short days, he had another harvest. Chu Hen's mood was very good, but very quickly, he discovered a slightly serious problem. He discovered that after so many days had passed, his surroundings were still a vast expanse of whiteness. The dense fog had not dispersed. This is so strange. There must be something wrong. Chu Hen removed the defensive glyphs and stood up to look around. It should be daytime right now and the sun's rays were not enough to disperse the fog. Something unusual must have happened here. After hesitating for a while, Chu Hen randomly chose a direction and walked. He didn't know if he chose the right direction or if it was for some other reason, but the fog in front of him gradually thinned. From the original 200 meters or so, it gradually increased to more than 500 meters. After around half an hour, Chu Hen could already see the scene thousands of meters away. However, just as he thought that he was about to walk out of this region, Chu Hen was once again stunned. In front of him was an extremely majestic and huge canyon. The canyon extended all the way forward, stacked on top of each other. The further he went, the deeper it became. The cliffs on both sides were extremely steep. Looking from afar, they looked like giant flood dragons and pythons stretching their heads out. Chapter 768. Looking at the magnificent canyon in front of him, Chu Hen suddenly had a feeling that his horizons had been broadened. It was something he had never seen before. It was so powerful, but what made Chu Hen vigilant was that this vast canyon gave off a mysterious sense of danger. The fog that hadn't dissipated after so many days might have something to do with this. Driven by curiosity, Chu Hen's figure moved. Like an eagle returning from its nest, he gracefully glided towards the gorge in front of him. Whoosh, the cool and refreshing valley wind blew against his face, making rapid whistling sounds in his ears. A few winged birds in the sky in front of him spread their wings and flew into the air, opening up a wide path for Chu Hen. Dancing with an eagle felt indescribably carefree. The mountain ridges and cliffs on both sides were constantly left behind by Chu Hen. The thin clouds were like smoke curling up in spirals, dancing between heaven and earth. Not long after, Chu Hen arrived at the depths of the canyon. And the deeper he went, the wider the terrain became, and the steeper the surrounding mountain walls became. Soon, Chu Hen unexpectedly discovered that there were many skeletons on the ground of the canyon below. These skeletons belonged to both demonic beasts and humans. From the degree of damage to the skeletons, he could tell that they were from a very long time ago. Whoa! Just as Chu Hen was thinking about what had happened here in the past, a loud and clear howl of a wolf soared into the sky and resounded in all directions. Chu Hen was slightly startled. He looked up and saw a giant wolf with alternating blue and white fur 1,000 meters away, howling at the sky. The demonic wolf stood proudly on the peak of the mountain wall. Its body was huge, more than 100 meters wide. It was also wrapped in a strange armor of thorns. From afar, it looked like it was wearing a layer of hedgehog armor. It was invincible and had a peerless aura. It was a demonic spirit. From the strong aura of death emitted from its body and the pair of blood-red eyes, it was obvious that this demonic wolf was not a real demonic beast, but a demonic spirit. Even though it was a species with low intelligence, it didn't look like it was easy to deal with. Chu Hen had no intention of rushing up to fight it out with the other party. He immediately lowered his flying altitude and circled around the back of a mountain wall, directly avoiding the demon wolf's line of sight. Next, Chu Hen encountered many powerful demon spirit bodies. At the same time, more and more skeletons and corpses appeared in the canyon. Towards the end, it was a vast expanse of white, and skeletons were piled up like a mountain. A thick Yin-Xian death qi filled the air. Chu Hen frowned and murmured, "No wonder the Yin qi here is so thick. So this is a 10,000 spirit pit." The number of demonic beasts and human experts who had died here was definitely more than 10,000. Coupled with the unique back-to-the-sun terrain, where Yin flourished and Yang diminished, countless demon spirits were born. It seemed that he was getting closer and closer to the truth. Chu Hen became more and more cautious. He looked up at the sky, which was shrouded in white mist. It was much darker than before. Unknowingly, the evening had quietly arrived, and night would come again. It was getting dark. Should he go forward or leave first? The night was the time when the demon spirits were the most active, and the risk factor would also increase exponentially. But he had already come this far. If he retreated now, it would more or less feel like he was giving up halfway. After a short moment of hesitation, Chu Hen once again flew up and rushed towards the depths of the forest. Boom! In less than half a cup of tea's time, a chaotic and noisy turbulence came from afar. The mighty momentum was like thousands of soldiers and horses were fighting. Chu Hen was shocked again. What was going on? Immediately, he turned into a stream of light and quietly sneaked into the area in front of him along the side of the mountain wall. The closer he got to the front, the more violent the turbulence was. Endless battle cries resounded in all directions, and even the ground of the mountain was faintly trembling. Only a relatively large-scale battle would cause such turbulence. When Chu Hen saw the scene in front of him, he was immediately shocked. Thousands of troops were fighting in a chaotic battle. This is... The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed, and a lot of astonishment surged between his eyebrows. The magnificent and huge canyon was like a natural large funnel. The sky lost its color and the black tide was surging. The two opposing forces were fighting fiercely. Under the cold armor were the strange and evil skeletons. In their empty eye sockets, a pair of scarlet eyes were full of death. The demon spirit army. Chu Hen was especially flabbergasted. It was very clear that the army that was currently fighting were not real humans, but demon spirits that were derived from remnant souls. But what exactly was it for? Even after death, the two sides were still fighting each other. Even if they were reduced to bones, they still refused to let go of their obsession. Kill! Charge! In the midst of the slaughter, the army's soul was still there. The hollow sound seemed to be emitted after being amplified, and the entire valley was filled with the earth-shaking battle cries. Chu Hen retracted his aura and hid in the dark to observe the battle. One side was dressed in red battle armor, while the other side was dressed in blue. The battle formation of these heroic souls was simple and violent. They slashed with their swords and stabbed with their spears. The demonic spirits that were struck and killed would turn into wisps of smoke like dust and disappear from the world. They had completely disappeared from the world. These people were all experts when they were alive, Chu Hen softly muttered. From the scene in front of him, it could be seen that these demon spirits still possessed combat strength that was stronger than ordinary people. This was enough to prove that they were not ordinary people when they were alive. Of course, how many of those who could come to the ancient desolate heaven domain were ordinary people? The battle continued, and it became more and more intense. The entire canyon was enveloped in a chilly wind. The dark clouds seemed like they could collapse at any time. Bolts of lightning shot out from within, resonating with the chaotic battle below. Among the demon spirit army, there were many heroic souls with relatively strong combat strength. With a single slash, he swept through dozens of enemies, blasting them into powder and crystal fragments. They were as brave as they were when they were alive, and they did not hesitate to kill their enemies. After observing for a while, Chu Hen discovered the problem. It seemed that while the heroic soul armies were fighting, they were all trying to occupy a protruding stone platform in the middle of the valley. As the situation was too chaotic, Chu Hen did not discover that there was a high platform in the middle of the valley. Looking over, the high platform was pentagonal. It was about 300 meters wide and 50 meters tall. The stone platform looked very desolate, and it gave off the feeling that it was an ancient altar. With the dim light, Chu Hen could vaguely see that there were many strange and exquisite runes engraved around the stone platform. It was extremely mysterious. Their goal is to occupy that stone platform, Chu Hen said in a low voice. It seemed like he was talking to himself, but it also seemed like he was telling the sacred winged, heavenly flame sparrow what was on it. Demon spirits did not have any intelligence. Their instinct was to do their best to attach themselves to or plunder heavenly treasures with abundant spiritual energy. They would gradually strengthen themselves and continue to live in this world. In other words, Chu Hen's eyes lit up. It was very likely that there was some kind of treasure within that ancient stone platform. Chu Hen's heart was filled with anticipation. Just what kind of treasure could make these dead souls unable to let go of it after they died? In the blink of an eye, the stone platform was already occupied by many demon spirits. However, neither side was able to occupy an overwhelming advantage. They were completely evenly matched, and no one could do anything to the other. Boom! Suddenly, an extremely astonishing power fluctuation came from the rear of the two armies of dead souls. Along with a sharp and rapid wind breaking momentum, a golden stream of light and a black beam of light were like aurora phantoms flying in from outer space. At the same time, they swept up a powerful aura and charged towards the stone platform. Bang! A heavy explosion suddenly reverberated in the valley, and a circle of surging waves of light swept out like a tide. The terrifying impact soared into the sky, and along with the demon spirit military souls that were crushed into smoke, a deep crack appeared on the stone platform as well. Buzz! Buzz! The cracked stone platform actually released an obscure energy fluctuation, and rays of gentle and dim light seeped out from the crack. Boom! At the same time, the golden stream of light and the black light also flew into the sky, and like red-eyed enemies, they did not say a word and fiercely fought with each other. Chu Hen's attention was once again attracted by this sudden scene. When he saw the two light shadows clearly, Chu Hen's pupils shrank faintly. He saw that the two light shadows were actually two weapons. One of the black shadows was a long spear. The sharp spearhead was long and narrow in the shape of a rhombus. Connecting the spearhead to the middle of the spear body was a strange level 1 joint bone. It was like the spine of a dragon. It had an extraordinary aura and could move people's hearts. On the other hand, the other golden light was a silver saber. This silver saber was not gorgeous, and its appearance was relatively simple. It was like the leaves of a cattail grass, and the blade was thick and straight like a sword. Its simplicity revealed an unconcealable sharpness. A demon spirit attached to a weapon. Chu Hen clenched his fists slightly, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. The cultivation of these two demon spirits definitely reached the profound sky realm when they were alive. They should be the strongest here, the sacred wing heavenly flame sparrow reminded him in a low voice. Profound sky realm? Chu Hen's eyes turned slightly cold, and a look of caution appeared on his face. There were actually two profound sky realm experts buried here. It seemed that things were not as simple as he had imagined, and the situation could change at any time. In the void, the saber soul and the spear soul continued to fight fiercely. Even though they had been reduced to demon spirits, their combat power was still shockingly strong. It could be imagined that in the past, both sides had devoured many heaven and earth treasures, which strengthened their strength to this day. Chapter 769. Boom! In the void, an incomparably sharp black spear with a joint connecting the spearhead and the body was constantly clashing with a silver blade that emitted a shocking sharpness. The two were like mortal enemies that had been entangled for thousands of years. Every time they clashed, space would tremble, light patterns would scatter in all directions, and thousands of rays of light would spread in all directions, shocking the surroundings. The entire canyon had long been turned into a chaotic battlefield. Tens of thousands of demonic spirit heroic souls had erupted in an intense battle. The skeleton army under the armor looked especially strange and eerie. The magnificent scene before them was not the slightest bit inferior to a real battlefield. Hidden in the dark, Chu Hen's eyes were a little cautious as he stared at the battle between the blade soul and spear soul in the void. Although both sides were demonic spirits, the impact they displayed could be said to be unusually powerful and ferocious. Apart from that, Chu Hen had been paying attention to the mysterious stone platform at the center of the canyon from the beginning to the end. Under the impact of the two souls, deep cracks appeared on the stone platform. A gentle golden-red light leaked out from the cracks, and a scorching wave of air spread out in all directions. The restless energy became increasingly intense, as if something that contained a powerful energy was about to break out of the ground. Buzz, buzz. An intense rhythm once again swept out from the empty space. Chu Hen's eyelids lifted and he raised his eyes to look. He saw that the cold spear that was swallowing and spitting out powerful black light was emitting a dense aura. The aura continued to expand outwards, and in an instant, it transformed into a powerful flowing wave that enveloped the entire body of the spear. The silver blade was also not to be outdone. Its entire body emitted an extraordinary splendor, as if it had been soaked in the divine splendor of the 9 heavens. In an instant, it had turned into a peerlessly powerful blade that could split the sky. Swish! Swish! In the next instant, 2 powerful light figures that seemed to have flown in from beyond the heavens streaked across the sky, tearing through the air as they collided head-on. Boom! A frightening shockwave that was comparable to the collision of meteorites exploded in the sky. The sky trembled and the land shook. 2 enormous wave-like energy ripples shot towards the sky. Gold and black waves intertwined, forming a huge mushroom cloud that directly blasted a large hole in the surging black cloud tide. The army of the dead souls in the canyon below was shattered by the powerful shockwave, and their souls were scattered. Immediately afterward, the 2 shadows received a huge backlash and flew backward along with the spreading shock wave. Then, a scene that was even more eye-opening for Chu Hen occurred. Xiao! That long spear retreated to the top of the southern wall. Streaks of black light intertwined with each other and were released. The shape of the cold spear actually changed rapidly. Like a water column, the cold spear actually grew arms and legs. In an instant, it transformed into a giant humanoid skeleton that was more than 10 meters tall. Chi. The humanoid skeleton emitted a dense aura of death. Its eyes were scarlet like blood, and the black light continued to revolve around its body. Subsequently, a majestic general's armor was formed. The commander of the 3 armies can be taken, and the world will be unified. A heavy and domineering voice reverberated from the skeleton's mouth, shocking the surroundings. At the same time, the silver blade also flashed to the edge of the northern cliff. Gorgeous golden light patterns also spread out, and the silver blade also twisted and evolved. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a similarly majestic general's armor. Under the armor, there was also a ferocious humanoid skeleton demon spirit. 100 cities slaying the enemy king, lasting eternity. The heavy and ear-piercing roar was like a loudspeaker passing through the valley, causing the blood of those who heard it to faintly boil. The 2 demon spirits with powerful auras confronted each other from afar. They were like the generals of the 3 armies. Even if they died, they would still be heroes, fully displaying their might to fight the world. The army of departed souls below the canyon seemed to have received an order. They actually had an uplifting mood and became even more courageous. The commander of the 3 armies can be taken, and the world will be unified. 100 cities slaying the enemy king, lasting eternity. Roar! In the next instant, the aura of the black skeleton demon spirit that was formed by the cold spear increased by several times. The surging airwaves were monstrous, causing the sky to darken and the earth to turn dark. Immediately after, a huge lizard dragon shadow circled around it. It raised its head and roared towards the sky. Not only was this lizard dragon huge, it also had a pair of wings on its back. Its entire body was covered in rock-like scales, as if it was an ancient creature from the ancient times. This is? Chu Hen's pupils slightly shrank. He couldn't help but clench his fists. His eyes were filled with shock. Then, another earth-shaking roar resounded from the canyon. Roar! Behind the golden skeleton demon spirit that was formed by the silver blade, there were tens of thousands of dazzling holy lights. Immediately after, a majestic white tiger that could shake the mountains and rivers hung high in the sky like a sun. This white tiger's body was surrounded by holy light patterns. Its body was well built and perfect. When it opened its mouth, a pair of sharp fangs were like two sharp blades. Witnessing the scene in front of him, Chu Hen was completely stunned. At this moment, he was in a trance and began to doubt whether the two large skeletons were really demon spirits with low intelligence. This aura was really unparalleled. Damn brat, get ready. The thing underground is coming out. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow warned Chu Hen. What? Boom. As soon as it finished speaking, a huge dark red wave of light patterns suddenly spread out from the ground of the canyon. It was like a volcanic eruption, and a violent force surged out. In an instant it was earth-shattering and earth-shattering. Accompanied by the ceaseless shaking of the ground, a raging shock wave swept in all directions with crushing force. The scorching red wave engulfed and crushed countless demon spirits in the surroundings. The space fluctuated rhythmically. The stone platform exploded and the ground opened up like a flower blooming from the earth's core. Buzz, buzz. Along with the endless scorching heat wave, a piece of rock rose from the ground at a speed visible to the naked eye. The rock was dozens of meters tall, like an exquisite finger peak. The surface of the rock was covered in a dark red magma-like substance, but its essence was dark gray. Red light patterns swam all over it, making it very eye-catching. What a powerful energy! Chu Hen's eyes lit up. Even though he was 1,000 meters away, he could still clearly feel the energy waves coming from the rock. It really is the geocentric essence stone, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said with a hint of excitement. Geocentric essence stone? The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. What is this? Just like the immortal spirit-giving ink stone, it is also a supreme-grade material for forging artifacts. It is formed from the spiritual energy of 10,000 years of geocentric essence stone, and the energy it contains is extremely stable and enormous. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow gave a simple explanation. Even though Chu Hen didn't fully understand, it was enough for it to snatch something similar to the immortal spirit-giving inkstone. Take it. Just when Chu Hen was about to take action, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow stopped him and said, "Wait a moment, I have a better idea." Oh! Before he finished speaking, the two huge skeletal demon spirits had already taken action. One on the left and one on the right, they charged towards the geocentric essence stone in the center with a majestic aura. It was every demon spirit's instinct to plunder natural treasures that contained an enormous amount of spiritual energy. Only by continuously swallowing and absorbing those natural treasures would they be able to continuously strengthen themselves and continue to exist in this world. Moreover, this geocentric crystal was a precious treasure that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. One could well imagine how attractive it was to them. Buzz, buzz. Boom. As the two skeletal demon spirits moved, they rapidly transformed into a dragon-bone frost spear and a sharp silver blade. The ancient lizard dragon and white tiger behind them let out earth-shattering roars, and a powerful gale swept through the world, enveloping the entire valley. Whoosh! Chapter 770. Along with a strong energy fluctuation, the spear shadow and saber ray formed by the two skeletal demon spirits collided with the geocentric crystal almost at the same time. At this moment, the geocentric crystal that was as big as a small hill was like a volcano that was about to erupt. There seemed to be magma brewing inside as waves of restless energy continued to leak out, rumble. It was earth-shattering, and the weather changed. The entire canyon was silent as a wild, cold wind shrouded it. After the geocentric crystal was invaded by the two demon spirits, it kept changing strangely. Roar! The lizard dragon roared as a powerful black light surged out like a flame and enveloped the entire geocentric crystal. Roar! As the tiger roared, a dazzling golden light surged out, expelling the black light as it tried to occupy the geocentric crystal. Demon spirits had low intelligence or even no intelligence. Although the attack power of both parties was strong, the way to fight for the treasure was very simple. It was to expel the other party and take the treasure for oneself. However, both parties were evenly matched, and neither could do anything to the other. The crystal of geocentric stone floated in the air above the canyon. Sometimes it was enveloped by a black light, and sometimes it was wrapped in a golden radiance. The two great demon spirits continued to fight against each other. In addition to the rejection of the enormous energy contained within the crystal of geocentric stone, it caused the three forces to converge together and collide, causing the entire canyon to be thrown into chaos. Meanwhile, the departed soul demon spirits in the surroundings had already fallen into chaos. Many of the demon spirits wanted a share of the loot, so they charged toward the geocentric crystal. However, before they could even get close to it, they were crushed by the powerful aura. Chu Hen was shocked and curious. A hint of excitement could be seen in his eyes. He finally understood the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow's intention. Get ready. We'll leave immediately after we obtain the geocentric crystal, the sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow said solemnly. All right. Chu Hen nodded as his eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to make his move, a few sounds of wind whistling could be heard as 5 to 6 figures charged toward the geocentric crystal at lightning speed. Hey, I've been waiting for a long time. This Earth core crystal is mine. Don't even think about touching it. Everyone who sees it has a share. Don't even think about monopolizing it. There were actually quite a few Orioles. Chu Hen couldn't help squinting his eyes. The ancient desolate heaven domain truly had a group of dragons and tigers, and all of them had hidden themselves so well. Initially, he thought that he was the only one nearby. He did not expect that there would be so many people who wanted to be the fisherman. In the blink of an eye, those people had already rushed to the front of the crystal core stone. They all took out their tools and stretched out their arms, intending to take the treasure before them. However, right at this moment, a majestic aura appeared in the air above the geocentric crystal. Under the suppression of a vast and mighty aura that was almost material, everyone was shocked in their hearts. They raised their heads and saw a winged lizard dragon and a completely snow-white saber-toothed tiger impressively appear in the sky. Roar! Roar! Along with 2 deafening roars, 3,000 bolts of lightning flashed in the sky. With a loud bang, a golden and black ring of light surged out in all directions with the geocentric crystal as the center. The space slightly distorted, and a terrifying shockwave landed on those people with an earth-shattering force. Everyone who was caught off guard spat out a mouthful of blood as they rapidly retreated. Damn it, everyone cursed inwardly. They were too careless. Although the 2 demon spirits did not have any intelligence, protecting their food was an instinctive reaction of any living being. As long as someone tried to snatch something from them, they would definitely be attacked. Boom! Suddenly, in the next moment, a sky-piercing silver fist swept out and crushed the 2 ferocious beast silhouettes in the sky. What? Everyone was shocked once again, and their expressions changed inwardly. Not good, they let others reap the benefits without doing anything. Following that, a young figure gracefully flew across the sky like a swallow returning to its nest. Dazzling and brilliant starlight burst out from his body. Fecta chain. Along with a dark shout, 7 iron chains flickering with starlight extended out from his back. Each and every one of the silver iron chains was like a flood dragon or a huge python that swallowed and spat out light. They were also like wings that grew out of Chu Hen's body, dazzling and dazzling. Boom! In an instant, the 7 chains of starlight rapidly extended out, directly binding the geocentric crystal within. Rise! Chu Hen's eyes revealed a deep, cold light. In an instant, he dragged the 10-meter-tall geocentric crystal up and flew in a certain direction without saying a word. From start to finish, the time that Chu Hen used was less than 3 seconds. Before the people around him could react, Chu Hen turned into a beam of light and disappeared into the horizon. No one could even see his appearance clearly. Damn it, how dare he snatch food from the tiger's mouth. I'm going to kill that thing today. That seems to be a move from the Seven Soul Palace's Big Dipper Sky technique. I've fought with the Seven Soul Palace a few times before. Seven Soul Palace? After him. One figure after another rapidly chased after him. No one was willing to let Chu Hen take away the geocentric crystal under their eyes. In the fog Grand Canyon, a chilly wind blew. Apart from the pursuer behind him, the geocentric crystal had also attracted the pursuit of many demon spirits. Chu Hen left this place as fast as he could. From afar, it looked like a person dragging a small mountain as he moved forward. The scene was a little comical. Buzz buzz, the geocentric crystal that was entangled by the 7 starlight chains continued to violently attack. However, the 5th level of the Big Dipper Sky technique, the Fecta chain, had an extremely powerful demon trapping and suppressive force. In a short period of time, it was still difficult for the 2 demon spirits inside to break free. As it moved, the geocentric crystal was undergoing a slight change. The color of the rock wall on the surface was gradually changing from dark reddish-gray to grayish-white. Moreover, if one were to observe it carefully, the rock wall even had cracks faintly appearing. This was a sign of the dissipation of the spiritual energy. After the energy within the geocentric crystal had been devoured, the remaining impurities were left behind. These 2 demon spirits are so fast? Chu Hen was secretly shocked. If the 2 demon spirits were to completely devour and refine this geocentric crystal, their strength would definitely soar again. At that time, he might not be able to do anything to them. Keep the geocentric crystal in your violet palace. It can block the leakage of spiritual energy. Otherwise, you'll be surrounded by the demon spirits here sooner or later. The sacred winged heavenly flame sparrow hurriedly reminded him. Chu Hen's eyebrows slightly wrinkled. He turned around and looked at the Earth's core crystal that was like a small palace. He said with a slightly weird expression, "To me, this is a challenge. I'm really worried that my Dantian will explode. Up to you if you want to be surrounded and attacked by tens of thousands of demon spirits." The corner of Chu Hen's eyes twitched. Tens of thousands of demon spirits. Just thinking about it made him feel that the scene was spectacular and terrifying. He immediately clenched his teeth and quickly used the Sea of Heaven and Earth technique. In an instant, a surge of true essence quickly circulated within Chu Hen's body. Streams of light gathered in front of Chu Hen and formed a round ball of light. The ball of light rotated rapidly. The central area expanded and a vortex-shaped passage appeared. Buzz buzz, immediately after, the geocentric crystal was covered with a layer of white light patterns. "Withdraw," Chu Hen secretly shouted, and a force of attraction surged out from his Zifu. The space where the crystal of the geocentric stone was located started to distort, and the powerful force unceasingly started to compress it. After a few seconds, the crystal of the geocentric stone violently trembled for a bit, then turned into a wisp of shadow and flew towards Chu Hen. Whoosh! It immediately disappeared in front of Chu Hen and was absorbed into his violet palace. Buzz! As soon as the geocentric crystal entered his body, Chu Hen's body couldn't help but tremble. This feeling was like swallowing the food of 10 people. He almost exploded. Although Chu Hen's battle strength was comparable to the 4th or 5th level of the World Profound Realm, he was only at the 2nd level of the World Profound Realm. The extent of the Violet Palace's opening was still small. The power it could contain was also relatively limited. Previously, he had already contained the Immortal Conception Inkstone and the Great Tao Divine Stone. Now, with this geocentric crystal, he was almost at his limit. Fortunately, he could still bear it. After a short period of discomfort, his body gradually relaxed. However, after such a delay, The group of people chasing behind him also arrived. Chapter 771. If you don't want to die, then hand it over. Humph. Reckless little brat, daring to snatch food in front of this lord. Are you tired of living? When Chu Hen used the sea absorption art to store the geocentric crystal into his true origin Violet Palace, the numerous pursuers behind him seized this opportunity to catch up. Everyone glared angrily at Chu Hen, and their gazes emitted ominous glints. As soon as the geocentric crystal entered his Violet Palace, it directly cut off the leakage of spirit energy. Sensing the numerous demon spirits in the distance that had lost their target, Chu Hen's mind slightly eased up. In comparison, in this mountain range area, the number of demon spirits exceeded tens of thousands. Once they attacked as a group, the danger they posed would be far higher than the human wuxiu. Everyone, do you need something? Chu Hen had a leisurely expression as he looked at the crowd that swiftly surrounded him. Humph, what are you playing dumb for? A middle-aged man that held a long saber fiercely glared at Chen Shi, and the saber flame on his body rose as he raged like a lion. Give me the geocentric crystal, or else I'll chop you into pieces today. Don't waste your breath with this little thief. Let's kill him first, then we'll properly divide the geocentric crystal. You're right, let's do it. Swoosh, swoosh. Without saying too much nonsense, everyone burst out with a strong killing intent. Each and every one of them held a sharp weapon in their hands and rushed towards Chu Hen. They surrounded him from all sides and had a kind of arrogance as if they wanted to kill Chu Hen with a flurry of blades. When faced with over a dozen powerful figures that were like wild beasts, Chu Hen knew that it was useless to say anything more. If he wanted to successfully take away the geocentric crystal today, it probably wouldn't be so easy. Swoosh. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold as a powerful and majestic aura gushed out from his body. Along with the dazzling starlight, 7 thick and strong silver chains exploded out from behind him and flew out, fecta chain. Along with Chu Hen's shout, the 7 stellar chains that were strong like WRMS gave rise to the might of the heavens that overturned rivers and seas. With Chu Hen at the center, it stirred the sky and instantly transformed into a ball of strong wind that was like a nebula vortex. Within the ball of light, the shadows of chains rapidly swept about, displaying the might of breaking through 1,000 caddies. Bang! Boom! As soon as the people surrounding Chu Hen got within 100 meters of him, they were directly swept away by the silver shadow locking strike. The terrifying impact force was comparable to the impact of a mountain. Caught off guard, everyone was sent flying away one after another. Their true essence shields shattered, and their blood surged up, causing them to vomit blood. Brat, are you really from the 7 Souls Palace? The middle-aged man with the long blade just now used the blade aura to protect himself. After blocking Chu Hen's attack, he shouted angrily in a deep voice. 7 Soul Palace? Hey! Chu Hen sneered, and a trace of extreme disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. Do you think I would associate myself with that group of shameless people? Shameless people? You're not from the 7 Souls Palace, but how do you know their Big Dipper Heavenly Star technique? What does that have to do with you? Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, 2 of the chains broke through the air and swept towards the middle-aged man with dazzling starlight like a wild dragon that instantly emerged from the sea. 1 from the front and 1 from the back, 1 from the left and 1 from the right. The latter's expression changed greatly. The strength of Chu Hen's strength far surpassed his imagination. Caught off guard, the 2 iron chains firmly smashed onto the other party's chest, fiercely sweeping against it. Bang! A ball of chaotic light splashed out, and the middle-aged man's bones instantly shattered. His internal organs shifted, and the aura he emitted was sharply reduced. You? The middle-aged man was furious and flustered. But before he could react, dozens of cold demon spirits appeared out of nowhere. All the demon spirits were like evil creatures that had smelled blood. They swarmed up and surrounded the middle-aged man. Arg! Miserable screams mixed with the sound of flesh being torn and bitten. In the blink of an eye, the middle-aged man's figure was drowned in the group of demon spirits. Chu Hen's eyes slightly narrowed. Anything that had a strong spiritual energy fluctuation could become the target of the demon spirit's attack. If he was the slightest bit careless, they would take the opportunity to attack. This was definitely not a place to stay for long. Whoever dares to follow me will die. Chu Hen barked. His figure immediately moved, and he turned around to leave. The thunderous momentum directly suppressed quite a few people in the surroundings. Just a moment ago, the strength that Chu Hen displayed caused fear to grow in their hearts. The most important point was still the countless demon spirits that were hiding nearby, ready to make a move. However, not long after Chu Hen turned around, a shocking sword light that was more than 100 feet suddenly descended from the sky. Like a rainbow piercing through the sky, it intercepted a mountain in front of Chu Hen. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening thunderous sound, the mighty sword chi spread out in all directions like a blooming flower. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Rocks flew everywhere, and the sky was filled with gravel that smashed towards Chu Hen. The fierce wind danced wantonly. Chu Hen clenched his fists and looked back at the sky behind him. He saw a young man and a woman standing proudly in the void. Both of them were dressed very luxuriously. At first glance, it was obvious that they were not ordinary people. The sword in the man's hand had been unsheathed, and it was shining with a illusory golden light. His indifferent eyes revealed a hint of frivolity. "You want to leave just like that?" the man said lightly. A hint of caution surged between Chu Hen's brows. These two people's realms were higher than his. The man had probably reached the 5th level of the Earth Profound realm, and the woman was at least at the 4th level. If it was just one person, Chu Hen would not be afraid. But now that he was facing two people, it was inevitable that he would feel a lot of pressure, especially when there were so many Orioles hiding in the dark nearby. "What do you want?" Chu Hen replied without batting an eyelid. You took our things, and you're asking us what we want? What a joke." The one who spoke was the woman. Although the woman could not be considered beautiful, she had the noble temperament of a noble's daughter. However, her disdainful tone made Chu Hen feel slightly unhappy. "Your things?" Chu Hen replied with a sneer. "I seem to be the one who got it first, right? If you want it, we can discuss it. I can share some with you." In this kind of situation, Chu Hen first planned to probe the two people's strength before deciding on a countermeasure. However, towards Chu Hen's discussion, the two people did not appreciate it at all. The woman coldly replied, "Ignorant thing, don't you know that the spear formed by the demon spirit is the treasure that our Heaven Dynasty's ruler bestowed to the Northfield King, Su Qing? The dripping divine dragon spine spear, what?" As soon as these words came out, the expressions of the people hiding in the distance changed. They were secretly shocked, and their eyes were filled with respect and fear. Heaven Dynasty, Northfield King, Su Qing? Dripping divine dragon spine spear. When Chu Hen heard the words Heaven Dynasty, he was slightly shocked and couldn't help but frown. Before coming to the ancient desolate heaven domain, Danzhen, Hua Shui, and the others had given Chu Hen a simple introduction of some of the more famous high-class forces and sects in the victorious East State. Especially regarding the top 10 sects and clans, they had solemnly explained it to Chu Hen. Heaven Dynasty was one of the top 10 forces in the victorious East State. It was also the only country that was in the top 10. The region of a province was vast, and there were tens of thousands of countries. Since ancient times, it had always been the sects that were more important than the country. After all, the imperial power of a dynasty was more involved in worldly matters. However, this Tian Tong Empire was an exception. Aside from the fact that the imperial power dominated a region, its overall strength was something that countless people could only look up to. As for the so-called Northfield King, Su Qing, he was also a top figure in Heaven Dynasty. However, there were only rumors about him in the outside world. This was because 1,000 years ago, when the ancient desolate heaven domain opened, Su Ching had entered the ancient desolate heaven domain. However, since then, he had never returned. Even though he was surprised, Chu Hen's face did not reveal too much of a flustered expression. "I'm sorry, I really didn't know before." Chu Hen spread his hands and shrugged. The man slightly raised his eyelids and said indifferently, "Give me the dripping divine dragon spine spear." Chu Hen sniffled and said, "I also want to return it to you, but the dripping divine dragon spine spear has already fused with the earth core crystal." So, Chu Hen originally wanted to say that he would return it after the dripping divine dragon spine spear and the earth core crystal were separated. However, before he could finish, the man directly interrupted him. "So, hand over the earth core crystal as well." His cold tone did not contain the slightest bit of resistance. His overbearing gaze was as sharp as a sword. The appearance of this scene also caused the surrounding people to give up on the idea of fighting for the earth core crystal. Even the people from Heaven Dynasty had come, so the result could be imagined. As for Chu Hen, in the eyes of the crowd, it was nothing more than a waste of effort. He had deliberately waited for this moment, and now, he still had to obediently submit. Speaking of which, I actually have a question that I hope the two of you can answer. You said that the spear is the dripping divine dragon spine spear, then may I ask, what is that silver blade? Chu Hen's sudden question caused the young man and woman to be slightly surprised. The two of them looked at each other, and the young woman indifferently said, "There's no harm in telling you. That blade is called the Heaven's Blade, and it is the weapon of the Conquering Cloud's 3-army commander, Bailey Chi Conquering Cloud? Heaven's Blade?" Chu Hen's eyes brightened. The Conquering Cloud Nation was also a top-tier dynasty in the Eastern Victory Province. Even though there was a large gap between the Conquering Cloud Nation and the Heaven Unified Dynasty, behind the Conquering Cloud Nation was the Heavenly Bamboo Peak. The Heavenly Bamboo Peak was also one of the top 10 first-rate sects in the Eastern Victory State. In other words, even though the imperial power of the Conquering Cloud Nation was far from the Heaven Dynasty, if they were to really fight, the Conquering Cloud Nation would not be afraid of the other party. Thinking up to here, Chu Hen and the people nearby couldn't help but sort out their thoughts. It turned out that 1,000 years ago, the last time the ancient desolate heaven region opened, Heaven Dynasty's north-guarding King Su Ching and the 3-army commander of the Conquering Cloud Nation Bailey Chi met in this great canyon. Afterwards, the two armies fought for days and nights. In the end, both sides suffered great losses, and both sides were destroyed. Su Ching and Bailey Chi were both first-rate experts in the Eastern Victory State back then. After they died, a strand of remnant will turned into a demon spirit body. Relying on the great power they had when they were alive, the demon spirit body they turned into after death was far stronger than other demon spirit bodies. In addition, they were attached to the treasures Dripping God's Spear and Heaven's Blade. Their heroic souls were not extinguished, and they commanded the departed soul demon spirit body. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 years had passed. The two great enemies fought each other when they were alive, and even after becoming ghost heroes, they still stubbornly resisted each other. This was also why the demon spirit bodies that were fighting before were all wearing armor, like soldiers of the 3 armies. "Are you done asking?" The man calmly said, "Then, bring all the things over." Everything seemed to be as it should be. However, something unexpected happened. Chu Hen's eyes were resolute, and he unhesitatingly spat out a word. Chapter 772. No! A firm and resolute word came out of Chu Hen's mouth. He looked at the young man and woman from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty without a trace of fear on his face. The two of them were clearly surprised by Chu Hen's reply. The young man sneered, "I'll give you one more chance. Say it again." Buzz, traces of cold light blossomed from the long sword in his hand. A cold wave of air rushed towards Chu Hen. In the dark canyon, the cold wind rustled. In the distance, all kinds of demon spirits danced chaotically. However, they were forced back by the aura emitted from the young man's body. The young woman with a noble temperament slightly raised her head and looked at Chu Hen with a condescending attitude. I see that you have such a cultivation at such a young age. It would be a pity to kill you. If you don't want to die, then obediently hand over the draining god spear and the geocentric crystal. Otherwise, there will be another demon spirit here today. Although her words were gentle, they were clearly threatening. However, Chu Hen didn't care. He indifferently replied, "Just as the two of you said, the geocentric crystal contains not only the draining god spear, but also the heaven's blade of the conquering cloud's 3 armies, Bailey Chi. Moreover, I was the one who snatched the geocentric crystal first. If you want to take it all away, isn't that too so?" The young man coldly interrupted. "So, I can return the draining god spear to you. However, I want the other 2 items," Chu Hen said in a powerful voice. After all, the Heaven Imperial Dynasty was one of the top 10 first-rate forces in the Eastern Victory State. In terms of fear, Chu Hen definitely had. However, if the other party wanted to take away all 3 items, Chu Hen would definitely not agree. "Humph, stubborn." The young woman frowned. A trace of coldness flashed in her eyes. She sneered at the man beside her. "Senior brother Gu, it seems like there's no need to say any more." "That's exactly what I was thinking." The corners of the man called Gu's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. Without further ado, he immediately raised his sword and charged towards Chu Hen. "I'm sorry to inform you that your trip to the ancient, desolate heaven domain has come to an end." Buzz! Gu's sword aura rose abruptly as he brandished his sword. Strong gales that could topple mountains and overturn seas howled in all directions, causing the surrounding space to tremble. A sword aura that resembled a swimming dragon shot out from behind him, transforming into a sword rainbow that shot straight towards Chu Hen. The sword aura was astonishing, as if it was a rainbow in the sky. "Die!" Gu shouted in a stern voice. Chu Hen's pupils constricted slightly. Before he could even make a move, the powerful sword rainbow Great Tao had already rushed in front of him. Bang! The violent turbulence instantly exploded in the sky. Tens of thousands of light shadows bloomed in the void, and the fireworks-like sword patterns shot in all directions. The power of the sword caused the sky to darken. The experts who were hiding in the dark were secretly shocked, and their expressions changed. As expected of someone from the heavenly imperial dynasty. His cultivation is actually so strong. That reckless thief doesn't even have time to regret now. Witnessing the scene before them, the surrounding people suddenly gave up on the idea of obtaining the geocentric crystal. Gu's sword shocked everyone, and a hint of arrogance appeared on his face. "Humph, you can't even take a single sword from me, and you still dare to negotiate with me." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a sudden whooshing sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. Everyone's heart trembled slightly. They saw a beam of silver light rapidly traversing through the sky full of sword radiance and immediately flew to the area above Gu. Chi! In the next instant, endless black lightning burst out from Chu Hen's body like a 3-dimensional net of light. He extended both of his palms, and the unending stream of dark lightning power rapidly gathered together. In an instant, it formed an extremely dense lightning pillar. The berserk energy ripple was comparable to the cry of 1,000 birds, causing people's scalps to go numb. "What?" Gu slightly frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He originally thought that the destructive power of the sword just now would seriously injure Chu Hen even if he didn't die. He didn't expect that not only was the opponent fine, but he was also able to counterattack so quickly. It was really surprising. Thunder slash! Clang! The thunder roared, and it was ear-piercing. In an instant, A huge lightning pillar that exceeded 100 zhang descended from the sky with the power to destroy mountains and rivers, and it fiercely struck down towards Xian Gu below. Too weak, Xian Gu shouted coldly. He struck out with his sword, and a dazzling golden sword beam shot out like an aurora, colliding head-on with the lightning beam. Rumble! The two collided, and the void exploded. It was earth-shattering. The lightning and sword radiance wantonly collided and splashed everywhere. A powerful and piercingly cold gale spread across the heaven and earth, and the mighty shock waves continuously swept in all directions, washing away the thick fog in the sky. The expression of the young woman from the Heaven Imperial Dynasty, who was with Xian Gu, slightly changed. True Yuan immediately rose from her body, and a tassel-like light flew out. What? Are you going to bully me with numbers? Chu Hen ridiculed. Humph! Xian Gu's eyes turned cold, and a powerful sword energy forced back the scattered lightning runes. He then said, Junior apprentice Sister Bai Nian, there is no need for you to do anything. I alone am enough to kill him. Even so, the young woman named Bai Nian did not have any intention of stopping. Junior apprentice brother Xian Gu, this is not a place to stay for long. It's better to end this quickly. Hearing this, Xian Gu couldn't help but tighten his grip on the sword in his hand. He immediately nodded and erupted with a far stronger aura than before. He waved his sword and attacked Chu Hen. And Chu Hen naturally understood the other meaning behind the words, not a place to stay for long. Since the Heaven Imperial Dynasty had come here to retrieve the Dripping God Spear, then it was very likely that the experts from the country of Conquering Cloud would also come to retrieve the Tianai blade. At that time, the situation would become even more chaotic. It seemed that he couldn't fight for too long. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Xian Gu's attack arrived. His sharp sword was surrounded by flowing light runes, and the tip of the sword went straight for Chu Hen's throat. Chu Hen's eyelids twitched, and he turned to the side, nimbly dodging the attack. Then, with a backhand slap, a vast amount of Zhen Yuan gathered at the center of his palm, forming a raging palm energy. Xian Gu did not dare to underestimate his opponent too much, withdrawing his sword and striking out with his palm, clashing with Chu Hen's palm energy. Bang! The two palms collided, and a wave of qi overflowed. The surging true essence of the two overlapped and fiercely collided. Xian Gu's realm was higher than Chu Hen's, so the density of his true essence directly suppressed Chu Hen. But immediately after, Chu Hen's palm suddenly blossomed with a dazzling starlight. Before Xian Gu could react, he suddenly felt a monstrous power surging along Chu Hen's arm like an undercurrent in the deep sea. Bang! Xian Gu only felt his arm go numb, and he was directly knocked back by Chu Hen's power. As he flew back, the corner of Xian Gu's eyes slightly narrowed. He saw that in the center of Chu Hen's left palm, there were a few bright and beautiful specks of light. Those specks of light arranged themselves into a pattern of the Big Dipper, looking very strange. Boom! At the same time, before Chu Hen could launch another round of attacks, the young woman named Bai Nian had already burst out with an even more powerful aura. Her 10 fingers quickly pinched together to form a seal, and in an instant, a white curtain of light flew out from behind her. These light curtains were like thousands of silks, satin, and brocade. Pieces of white cloth quickly flew towards Chu Hen. They covered the sky and the earth, pierced through the blue dome of heaven, and revolved around Chu Hen in the form of 6 entanglements. As they revolved, the distance between each piece of white cloth rapidly shrank. In just an instant, the white curtain of light transformed into a birdcage that was dozens of meters wide. In just an instant, Chu Hen had become a bird in the cage. Through the white curtain of light, one could faintly see Chu Hen's figure trapped inside. A hint of disdain could be seen in Bai Nian's eyes as she looked at the huge birdcage that hovered in the sky. Don't even think about coming out after entering my saint cage. Senior brother Xian Gu, take this opportunity. I know. Gu laughed coldly as surging true origin energy flowed into the longsword in his hand like tidewater. If you don't die after receiving this strike of mine, then I, Gu, will write my name backwards. An extremely powerful aura surged in the sky. It was obvious that Gu planned to use all his strength to kill Chu Hen with this strike. Chu Hen, who was trapped in the saint cage, also clearly felt the extremely threatening power outside. Immediately, he flashed to the wall behind the saint cage. Following that, a dazzling silver saint radiance blossomed from within. Bai Nian smiled disdainfully as he sensed the energy fluctuation released by Chu Hen. Don't waste your time. With your cultivation base, you'll never be able to break it. Boom. Before he could finish speaking, Bai Nian's voice came to an abrupt halt. It was replaced by a deafening explosion. Before anyone could react, a dazzling silver pillar of light pierced through the wall behind the huge cage like a sword piercing through the clouds. In the next moment, Chu Hen turned into a wisp of shadow and flew out of the hole in the wall, instantly disappearing into the horizon ahead. What? How's this possible? Bai Nian was surprised. He clenched his fists tightly. This was really a slap in the face. Gu, who was preparing his killing move, was stunned as well. Others might not know, but he knew Bai Nian's saint cage confinement killing tactic was not something that could be easily defeated. Who was that person? An ordinary disciple from an ordinary sect would not have such ability. After a brief moment of surprise, Gu and Bai Nian's faces turned cold again. Chase after him. He can't escape. Whoosh. Chapter 773. The vast and boundless canyon was like a gentle mountain, incomparably mysterious. At this moment, Chu Hen was moving through the canyon at an extremely fast speed. The cold wind blew against his face, causing his clothes to flutter. His deep eyes were like the stars in the sky. We need to shake them off quickly. I feel a few powerful auras coming from the southwest direction, the sacred winged heavenly flame bird suddenly warned. Chu Hen frowned slightly. The people from the country of Conquering Cloud had arrived so quickly? Or was it someone else? He had only been in the ancient desolate Heaven domain for a few days, and the experts from the Heaven dynasty and the country of Conquering Cloud had already found this place. From the looks of it, the dripping god spear and the Tianai saber were not ordinary items. One was the weapon of the North Garrison King, Su Qing, and the other was the saber of the Commander-in-Chief, Bailey Qi. These two people were famous figures in the victorious East State 1,000 years ago. Unfortunately, these two profound sky realm experts were forever buried in the ancient desolate Heaven domain. Whoosh! Very quickly, Chu Hen crossed another 2 or 3 mountains. Although he had already raised his speed to the maximum, the distance between the two people was getting shorter and shorter. Chu Hen secretly shook his head. If this continued, they would catch up sooner or later. After all, the two people's cultivation was 2 or 3 levels higher than his, and the density of their true origin energy was much higher than his. If he could not shake them off in a short period of time, the one at a disadvantage would still be Chu Hen. Awoo! Suddenly, a loud wolf's howl pierced through the clouds and resounded through the canyon. On the cliff in front of them, there was a demonic wolf with blue and white fur proudly standing there. The demonic wolf stood proudly at the peak of the mountain. Its body was huge, more than 100 meters wide. Its body was also wrapped in a strange thorny armor. From afar, it looked like it was wearing a layer of hedgehog armor. It was invincible and had a peerless aura. The other party emitted a strong aura of death. Coupled with its blood-red eyes, it was easy to determine that this demon wolf was not a real demon beast, but a demon spirit. Even though it was a demonic spirit without any intelligence, this demonic wolf did not look like someone to be trifled with. However, Chu Hen's eyes suddenly lit up. We meet again. When Chu Hen came to this Grand Canyon previously, he had also encountered this demon wolf. But at that time, he did not disturb or provoke the other party. Instead, he walked around them. Now that he saw the other party, Chu Hen immediately revealed a sinister smile. Idiot, do you think you can escape? At the same time, Heaven Unified Dynasties Xian and Bai Nian were already several hundred meters behind them. Xian brandished his long sword, and several swift and fierce sword chi streaked across the sky like a blade piercing through the air towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen ignored it. He dodged a few times in the air, but he drew a bright arc in the air, changing the direction of his movement, and swept towards the other side. Seeing this, Xian and Bai Nian could not help but look at each other. The two of them naturally saw the giant wolf demon spirit at the top of the cliff in front of them. Was this Chu Hen an idiot? To actually run in that direction, was he not afraid of being attacked from both front and back? Senior brother Xian, be careful, don't let this little thief play any tricks, Bai Nian said in a low voice. Xian coldly smiled. You think too highly of him. I will let him know what it means to seek his own death. Buzz! An astonishing surging aura gushed out from the sharp sword in Xian hand, and circles of intertwining sword runes covered the body of the sword. After changing the direction of his movement, Chu Hen was heading towards the giant wolf demon spirit at the top of the cliff. Seeing that Chu Hen was getting closer and closer, the demon wolf's scarlet eyes clearly flashed with a cold aura of death. It looked like a ferocious creature from hell, abnormally sinister and terrifying. A whoa! In the next instant, the demon wolf let out a high-pitched roar, and its pair of skeletal hind legs kicked hard, shooting out like a stream of light, and pouncing towards Chu Hen with a menacing aura. In front of him was the life-seizing demon spirit, and behind him was a powerful pursuer. Chu Hen, successfully, fell into a state of being attacked from both front and back. Behind him, Xian disdainfully sneered, "You really are an idiot. Die." Swish. As his voice fell, Xian slashed out with his sword, and a powerful sword aura surged forward with crushing momentum. Two golden sword auras that were more than 100 feet long intersected to form a cross, dragging a huge wave of light and shadow, and slashed towards Chu Hen at full speed. The demon wolf's giant claw, and the sharp sword aura. The two peerlessly powerful attacks were like two mountains pincer attacking one another. Chu Hen was like a bird that had fallen into the middle. What awaited him seemed to be destruction, however. At this critical moment, a strange energy fluctuation emitted from Chu Hen's body. Buzz buzz. Chu Hen completely ignored the powerful fatal sword aura behind him, and his pair of deep eyes stared at the demon wolf that was pouncing towards him. His arms moved like a willow, holding the Yang mystic chi in his left hand, and the Yin mystic chi in his right hand. Then, Chu Hen put his palms together, and the Tai Chi Yin and Yang Chi merged and rotated, forming an illusory yin-yang diagram in the center of his palms. In an instant, the space where Chu Hen and the demon wolf were in immediately underwent a strange change. At the same time, the surrounding space also began to distort. It was both real and fake, as if they had fallen into an illusion. There seemed to be an illusion of the rotation of heaven and earth, and all things shifting. Greater teleportation technique. When the distance between Chu Hen and the demon wolf was less than 10 meters, Chu Hen shouted, "Whoosh!" In the next instant, Chu Hen and the demon wolf were like two black and white dots in the yin-yang diagram. Taking advantage of the flow, the positions of the two people immediately changed. In just the blink of an eye, the distorted space immediately returned to normal, and the area where Chu Hen and the demon wolf were instantly changed. Chu Hen, who was sandwiched between the two a second ago, suddenly became the giant wolf demon spirit body. What? Bai Nian and Xian, who were chasing from behind, were stunned. Neither of them expected that Chu Hen would have such a strange secret technique. In the next second, the two intersecting sword auras released by Xian directly swept up a terrifying impact and slashed the demon wolf's body. Boom! Sword aura splashed everywhere, and heaven and earth were sent flying. Chaotic light and shadows flew in all directions, and the huge body of the giant wolf demon spirit body shook violently. Because the other party was not a physical creature, the sword did not produce a scene of flesh and blood splattering, but its huge skeletal body became a lot more illusory. Roar! Immediately after, the giant wolf demon spirit body let out a monstrous roar. The sudden sword attack caused it to immediately turn around and aim its spearhead at Xian and Bai Nian. Without saying a word, it waved its sharp bone claws, sweeping up endless ferocious aura of death, and pounced towards Xian. Bastard! Xian shouted angrily, "You've been tricked." However, Xian's words were obviously superfluous. Demon spirits had low intelligence, and they only reacted on instinct. Instinct told it that the one who attacked it was Xian, so it directly attacked the latter. Bang! The sword and claws clashed, and sparks flew everywhere. Xian frowned. This demon spirit body was quite powerful. He shouted in a deep voice, "You go after that little thief, I'll catch up soon, okay?" Bai Nian did not hesitate. He bypassed the battle in front of him, and continued to chase after Chu Hen. Cunning little thief! Bai Nian cursed in his heart as he chased after Chu Hen's aura above the Great Canyon. Behind him, Xian and the giant wolf demon spirit body had a disagreement, and an intense battle broke out. The collision of strength and the howl of the giant wolf demon spirit body caused the entire mountain range to fall into violent chaos. As the fog in front of them became thinner and the number of demon spirits they encountered decreased, Bai Nian knew that they had reached the edge of the Great Canyon. Even so, Bai Nian's speed continued to increase. No matter what, he could not let Chu Hen go like this. However, at this moment, rumble! A mountain peak in the area in front of them suddenly exploded from the middle. A surge of surging aura came without any warning. Not good. Bai Nian's expression changed drastically. Before he could react, he saw a ray of sword light fly out from the mountain peak and attack him. This ray of sword light was actually formed from a few hundred piercingly cold strands of sword chi, and it possessed a vast impetus and was filled with the aura of slaughter. In a hurry, Bai Nian could only form a defensive barrier in front of him. Boom! Dozens of white cloths swept out from behind her, forming a solid light barrier in front of her. Bang, bang, bang! The strands of sword chi were like rain striking the banana leaves, constantly attacking the barrier of light. In the blink of an eye, the barrier of light was already riddled with holes. After blocking nearly 200 sword chi in a row, the light barrier finally collapsed, and the rain of sword chi swept down towards Bai Nian. Bai Nian's pupils violently shrank, and a great panic appeared on his face. Hiss! The sharp sword chi continuously passed through his body, and blood splattered everywhere. Streaks of blood appeared on Bai Nian's skin. Bai Nian hurriedly retreated and quickly took out a pill and put it into his mouth. Just when she thought that Chu Hen was going to rush out and attack again, a light figure flew towards the ridge in the distance. "I'll spare your life today, and the draining divine dragon's pine spear belongs to me. If you continue to pester me in the future, I won't show any mercy." A thunderous voice reverberated in everyone's ears. Looking at Chu Hen's disappearing figure, Bai Nian clenched her trembling hands. Her expression was cold, and her heart was palpitating. Even though her cultivation was 2 levels higher than Chu Hen's, it didn't seem difficult for him to take her life. Whoosh! At this moment, Xian, who was in the rear area, also caught up. Compared to before, Xian's body was clearly more vicious, and the veins on his forehead were faintly bulging. "Where is he?" Xian asked in a deep voice. Bai Nian gritted her teeth and shook her head. "He's already gone. You actually couldn't hold him back." Xian was a little angry, but when he saw that the other party was covered in wounds and blood, his expression couldn't help but become even more gloomy as he fiercely reprimanded. "No one can escape from me." Xian's eyes. He finally got rid of those two. Through the thin fog and dense forest, Chu Hen easily traversed through the forest. I really have to thank little Yao this time. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Chu Hen's mouth. The greater teleportation technique that he had just used was one of the martial arts secret techniques that Yi Yao had taught Chu Hen. The greatest feature of this secret technique was that it could change one's position. Back in Shanghai City, when Yi Yao and Lu Chuanfeng of the Northern Qian Chamber of Commerce engaged in a chase, Yi Yao had used this greater teleportation technique to fight for an opportunity to escape. It had to be said that this technique was very practical in many cases. Of course, Chu Hen had only mastered the greater teleportation technique, and his range of greater teleportation technique was far from Yi Yao's. Only when the two of them were very close would Chu Hen be able to use this technique. If it was Yi Yao, she would have been able to complete the greater teleportation technique when she was 1,000 meters away. However, this was already very satisfactory to Chu Hen.